Welcome back to the home studio and welcome to episode 98 of the Stevie Richards Show. It's that time again to answer you, as Hogan would say, your fan questions. And also, James and I have discovered something we didn't know about. It's called a community board. Explain this, my co-host, James Romero.
I can't because, apparently we've got a community board on YouTube and people have been posting to us and I've never seen any of these things.
My wife points out once in a while, like, oh, this person posted on the community board. And I'm like, how do I even find that? So I guess we're exposing our ages right now.
So this is fan questions once again. Of course, this is all questions from when we asked for them like a couple of months ago, I guess, or maybe a little less than that. But I wanted to open with a community board post that just popped up that I wanted to refer to. But that'll be the first up on the fan questions, and I think after this I may ask for more fan questions in a few weeks. So if you are not already subscribed to the YouTube channel, keep an eye out on the YouTube posts. That'll come up in your subscriber feed as well. So, you know, it'll be kind of hard to miss, I guess, especially if you're doing it on a phone as well. So anyway, let's do the intro. You've got your tech thing, which it doesn't have a name yet, does it?
Well, it does have a name, but I'm actually doing a collaboration with Chase Brogan, and he's about to hit 600,000 subscribers. So definitely does a lot of tech and gaming stuff. We have a live stream coming up that's just going to feature products like this, little emulator, Game Boy Advance type thing. So I'm going to play this after we record episode 98. I also have a projector that I'm going to take and put it up on the wall in the garage gym, but I'm having a lot of fun with Chase. He's doing a lot of great work, and we got some good content. I haven't pulled the trigger on the other thing because it seems like it's pretty hard right now to start a fresh channel in May of 2026.
Yeah, I was lamenting that May is the worst month for views. May and September, for whatever reason, I don't know if it's changing of the seasons, changing of people's situations, basically. Like September's like back to school and stuff. I've never understood May, but I think for wrestling channels especially, it's the post-WrestleMania lull as well. So
TKO knows about that too. TKO. Yeah. We got a story about that.
Yeah. That's actually going to be our closer for today as well, the whole TKO thing. So we will find out more about that as well from Mark Shapiro. He's always good for a quote. I have my solo channel, James Romero, where I do news of the week, try and get it out as fresh as possible, and I do a deep dive on a single subject. Stevie Richards has the Stevie Richards cameo, of course, and every time I ask how's it doing, he goes, it's all right. And then he goes, oh, I've got like 7 cameos to do this morning, by the way. So have you?
No, not yet. I'm doing refresh right now to see. Since you mentioned it, you do the reverse jinx, the good luck jinx with that. But yeah, I mean, I understand too with the economy that you're going to complain about the price that I charge. But at the same time, I understand that people, especially our Patreon members, we'll get to that in a second, but Cameo and even people who take the time to watch the YouTube channel, everything right now is very scarce for people as far as, everybody has to keep within a budget of their time, energy, and money. So we definitely appreciate that. We'll echo that at the end when we thank our Patreon members. You broke 70,000 just the other day on your solo channel. How's that doing?
Yeah, I think, annoyingly, I went away on the weekend. And I've got to, yeah, I know. But when you get in that mode of just, you have to do something every day, work-wise. And I made sure not to do anything all weekend, and it was really eating me up to not do a couple of videos. But I know it's because when it's like I've been on such a good run with it. I think I've only missed like 1 day in 5 weeks, and then to miss a weekend, it's like, oh, I hate it. But I had a nice time with my family instead. So swings and roundabouts, Stevie.
Hey, you said that almost begrudgingly.
I know.
I still, I guess I had a good time with my family. Man, so, the
side effect of all that work is,
the side effect of all that work is I've been warned time and time again that 7-day-a-week type of grind is a heart attack. So you don't want one of those.
Yeah, but it's not work if you enjoy it, though, is it?
Sometimes.
Yeah, fair enough.
If you got to set up the cameras and the audio and everything, the enjoyment, and filming it. You have to think about this too, man. It's going to sound so weird. I love editing video. I love the setup. I love the testing. My least favorite thing is being in front of the camera. I don't know why. I never got over that nervousness, that anxiety. And some people who watch me say their least favorite thing is seeing me in front of the camera too. Aha.
I've got a question. I'm just looking at this community board that we didn't know existed, and one of the messages is "Get well, bin Hameen" from 12 days ago. Was he sick?
Yeah, he actually got diagnosed a bit ago with stage 4A prostate cancer.
Jesus.
Had his prostate, yeah, exactly. Had his prostate removed not too long ago. I've been checking in with him, and yeah, it's definitely. I don't know if he's going to have radiation or anything like that. It's kind of like they got to figure out what to do, but they did do the
Stage
surgery.
4A.
Stage 4A. But
Crikey.
supposedly, when they caught it, there's still a very high percentage of remission, recovery, and obviously avoiding the thing you don't want as far as where it can go. Very random, very sudden, but that's something where our thoughts and prayers are obviously with Ben, his family, his circle of people, and it's just crazy, and I just check in with him, and that's something I didn't know if he wanted to share, but then I saw he publicly shared it through Master Sheet Theater, but definitely, thoughts and prayers with Ben. And it's such a terrible thing and such a random thing that can happen, whether you're like my brother at 23, 24 years old, some children or babies get it, then there's people that never get it throughout. It's just a terrible disease that needs to be completely eradicated.
Yeah, my granddad had it. Well, my granddad had it. I think he had his prostate removed, and he was like 70 when he got it, and he lived another 20 years. So, but I don't know what stage that was. But man, 4A.
I don't know if the A makes it. When you hear stage 4, obviously people think with all forms of cancer, but with this, supposedly there's a lot better survivability. There's a lot better full recovery, remission. But right now, like after the actual surgery, they're not sure if they're going to do the radiation. He did say one part was clean, but there was another part when they went in to take the prostate out that was a little bit jagged. So they were not sure about it getting into the lymph part of it. That's when you got to be worried, obviously.
Yeah, best of luck to him. I had no idea. I know it sounds. I don't think I've ever spoke to Ben, but it's weird that we're all podcasters and you kind of like the person in between. But I've only spoken to Vince Russo once personally.
But we all have our own circle of people that obviously this goes beyond content creation, competitiveness, or anything like that. And Ben's one of my closest friends anyway. But you just definitely want somebody. I don't wish anything like that or any form of the C word on anybody, friend, enemy, frenemy, whatever it might be, or anything in between. It's just terrible.
Yeah. Absolutely.
Why they don't have a cure in 2026 is insane. That can be a whole nother rabbit hole for that.
I mean, it seems a bit trite too, because I hadn't finished the plugs. I guess we have to talk about the Stevie Richards show.
Definitely plug that you follow
well.
Ben Hameen. Plug that you follow Ben Hameen and his road to recovery, and he's definitely going to make this a way to kind of bring awareness and make some kind of positive out of this, really scary experience.
Yeah, absolutely. The result, once again, it's just a terrible, because I've got to do the intro and.
Oh no, he would respect the hustle.
Okay,
you're like, pitch your stuff, man. Get yourself over.
Well, anyway, with that over and done with, let's go to the Stevie Richards Show Patreon, which you can sign up for right now. Links in all the descriptions of every single video and podcast and whatnot. And we do the show before the show. We do show notes, behind the scenes stuff, backstage meetings that I'm apparently completely unaware of, where Stevie and editor Chris shaped the future of this show. And also, more important than anything else, I guess, is the watch-alongs, the exclusive watch-alongs out every single Monday. Upcoming this Monday in the future is going to be Sid Vicious versus the Night Stalker, one of the worst matches in wrestling history, which I think, Stevie, you said it's like Brian this is his first match ever.
Yeah, once he ran off the ropes or kind of bumped into the ropes with his tricep and didn't grab it. Yeah, now if we were Ben, because Ben can make a joke out of this, Ben would say this match actually gave me prostate cancer.
It was, well, Adam Bomb. I mean, he was radioactive.
Radioactive is part of the treatment.
Ah.
There you
Well,
go.
no, no. Okay, right. It's the 3 Mile Island thing that gave him superpowers like the Cyclops. So maybe from that, but then the radioactivity. Maybe it gave him the problem and the cure.
Was the mushroom cloud radioactive?
Probably.
Yeah. They didn't really have checks and balances back then on that.
No, I don't think so either. But hey, you know, anything went in the night. Anything could happen in the WWF the 1990s. Okay.
Yeah. Anything did happen in that match. It just wasn't anything really all that good.
No, it was
Those Night Stalker Sid Vicious match.
What did we watch this past Monday?
Stevie? I totally forgot. No, the NTR. I won't say November to Remember. The NTR main event where you said it was just like a mishmash of things happening all at once. And the Patreon comments did agree that it did not have the psychology, but it was a fun watch. So good to see.
You know the circus music. If that was just played on a loop like New Jack's music, I don't think it would have actually added to the bout.
Actually, it would have been good if they could time it correctly and do the little doink tip where it becomes real dark. And there, that would be something. I also want to say this about the Patreon stuff. We talked about on the pre-show. I'm still dipping in and out of really pulling the trigger on the virtual wrestling school tier, teaching a curriculum, because they really do want me to break down the psychology, the nuance, and the detail that we try to do here, but literally explaining the most, people would think, mundane things that shouldn't be so mundane. But now, today in 2026, you can see when the foundational aspects of wrestling aren't followed, you start to get these really, really lapses in psychology and things that mean something. And even the technical aspect of these sort of get lost in translation when you're training live on Raw every week.
We have fan questions to ask for Stevie, and the first one, as I teased at the beginning, is actually from the community board that we didn't realize existed until very recently. And there are a lot of people writing to us on this as well. So there we go. And this is from, I'm actually going to switch the screen here. You can't see it, Stevie, but the people can. It's from Paul Thompson. I was listening to the WWECW episode of the Bruce Pritchard podcast, and they were doing a word association segment. They were going through the roster, and when Conrad brought up your name, Bruce said he takes himself too seriously. Just curious if there was an incident to make him say this, or why would he say it? The guy in the Daisy Duke half, and then, shorts and the half shirt, you were taking yourself
the Borg logo and the Guitar Hero font. Yeah, that was me.
Yeah.
No, what Bruce said, and when he says that, it basically means I ask questions. I ask questions. In other words, if you're an agent or you're somebody that is in charge of the match, you're essentially kind of like a coach, like a player coach. So even after years or decades in the business, and really sometimes I did it because I really want an explanation for why you're doing this, because you're doing it for nefarious reasons. You're doing it for reasons to, quote, test me or something like that. But when I ask questions or I want clarification on what you need for the match, and I take the match seriously, I take the assignment seriously, not so much myself, but I take the actual environment that I'm in that moment, with a segment, a promo, a match, seriously. And during this era, maybe still today, they didn't like when you asked any questions, because a lot of these people in the company and in the business have a God complex, and you can't even question them. And obviously, narcissism plays into this as well. How dare you even question my infallible idea that I have for you, or how dare you ask me a question and know that I'm trying to screw with you? That's kind of it. Taking myself seriously, I put myself in so many positions where that's moot. But what Bruce is referring to in a very blanket statement is anything I ever did in the business, any assignment, any physical, psychological, entertainment, whatever it might be, I took it very, very seriously. I'm a guy, even on the indies, and I take great pride in this, if they advertised who I was wrestling, whoever it might be, and I didn't know this person or know what they did or know what their character was or anything, I would do film study for a week or two. Or if it was somebody like I was in a match with and I didn't understand what they were doing. I watched multiple matches during cardio in order to study and learn. And then when I showed up for this person, I would say, hey, I introduced myself. Hey, right, we're working tonight. So I would introduce myself if they didn't first to me, talk about it and say, what do you want to do tonight? And they would say, well, I don't know. It's up to you, brother, or whatever. And I would say, hey, I was watching this match that you did with this person and you had this spot in here. Number one, I really like that. Maybe we can put that in here. Or I noticed with your finish, this is what you're doing. Who's going over? If they say, they might be like, well, I don't want to say. I'll go to the promoter. Am I putting this guy over? And he would say, yeah, okay, this finish, I see an interesting way to go into this finish with this. And then we can work backwards to the other stuff. It disarms the talent. It actually makes them feel like, oh my God, he actually watched my stuff. And number one, it protects me and I don't see anything that I'm not seeing coming. You can't go into a match cold. So somebody on the indies, like a promoter, could say, Stevie takes himself way too seriously because he shows up ultra prepared to know the talent that he's working, know what they do really well, and more importantly, for his safety, kind of know what they don't do so well so we can avoid that and also give the fans the best match that he could possibly give them. That is taking myself too seriously.
Yeah, but that's a linguistical thing, though, isn't it? I mean, you're taking it seriously or your job seriously, but he's saying yourself seriously, which is kind of as you allude to, an undercurrent way of saying that you're questioning the creative given to you.
Yep. Yep, as Jeff Farmer would say, Jumpin' Jeff Farmer, that is a personal dig at me, and that's completely fine. I would rather somebody say I take something way. Did other characters take themselves way too seriously? Didn't Stone Cold Steve Austin take his brand and character seriously? Didn't The Rock? And everybody could say, well, you're no Rock, you're no Austin. I don't care. Everybody from the top to the bottom of the card should take everything they do very, very seriously. Have fun. Everybody have fun out there. But still, at the same time, you need to take this seriously. This is literally a deadly spot to be in if you don't prepare correctly and have yourself where you need to be in that spot. Things can really, really, really go wrong. And I take that very seriously. And you know what else I take way too seriously? The health and well-being and the safety of my opponent in the ring. Now, they didn't always return that courtesy to me. But then again, that's what Bruce means, and that's what a lot of people, Val Venus commented on a shoot interview once that sometimes I would butt heads with people, which is actually way too, how should I say, way too dramatic of a way to put it. It would be asking questions or telling The Rock during a match with him and Val on SmackDown when Rocky was like, clothesline me over the guardrail thing. And I said, Rock, I don't do that very well. I really don't do it very well. Is there anything else? Can I throw you over? Can I climb you from behind and you can take a front bump yourself? I can hit you with a good forearm in the back. No, just clothesline me. Just clothesline. Just do it. Okay, cool. And guess what? It looked like crap. There was so much space in the clothesline from my 14-inch bicep, my 14-inch python. And that's where I only ask questions and I only rebut things or overthink it or take it way too seriously because I want it to look good and I want it to be safe. So there you go.
Do you remember any specific instances where you butted heads, I guess, to use that phrase, with Bruce Pritchard where he would get that impression of you? Because he's
so.
Specifically, this is the WWECW episode, apparently he referenced this on. So I didn't even think you really spoke to him that much.
No, he wasn't an agent for any of my matches. I remember he agented a promo that we did outside the locker room in TNA with Sabu. And he literally spoke to me like, never looked me in the eye, never spoke to me as far as anything. And then he would just be like, let's just get this over. He would give these little digs of, let's just get this over with. I got better things to do. So they're very much a personal thing there. And you know what? I don't take offense to that. I take pride in it. I think it's a compliment. And I think a lot more people should take this very dangerous business much more seriously.
Hmm.
And he, like you said, it backfired on me. I take myself way too seriously, but I'll put that wig and dress on. I'll seriously do it. Do you see what I mean?
Hmm.
I literally am the guy that would be like, my real name's Michael, so they'd be like, hey, he won't do it, but let Mikey do it. Mikey will do it, kind of thing, like the life cereal thing. Mikey likes it. Just I was always the guy. Most of my opportunities and most of the other things was based upon, guess what? Other people taking themselves way too seriously.
So we'll get to the fan questions. I mean, that was kind of the first fan question, actually. Taylor Used Toxic says, with the current and seemingly endless championship bloat within WWE, what championships would you cut out and what championships would you like to see brought back? This can also include old designs from current championships.
Oh, wow. Let's go with that last part first, because you and I can go on forever about having all the old designs return to the WWE. The Intercontinental title, the tag titles, and especially the Winged Eagle belt. I think that would, because those sales of those, I think when Kevin Owens and Cody brought it back for the Saturday Night's Main Event, didn't they sell it in WWE shop? And I think they still do.
I don't think they ever didn't sell it, but I don't know if they brought out any like different versions of it, with the different straps. They do that so often. They've got these signature series for Stephanie McMahon and Triple H and Undertaker. I know one's not like the others, but they do all these different versions. They even like a China one and a Roman Reigns one. They bring out these belts so often now. But I can give you a full list of belts currently in use should you wish.
Yes, please. You're talking about the actual championships in WWE right now.
Current ones, yeah. Okay, for starters, there are 2 World Heavyweight Championships. But let's get to the Raw side. World Heavyweight Championship, World Women's Championship, Intercontinental Championship, Women's Intercontinental Championship, World Tag Team Championship. And then on the SmackDown side, we've got the undisputed WWE Championship.
Which is very much disputed by the World Heavyweight Championship.
Yeah, the WWE Women's Champion. So there's the Women's World Champion, and then there's the WWE Women's Champion, then there's the US Champion, Women's US Champion, Tag Team Champions, and then Open is the Women's Tag Team Champions. We can get to NXT in a minute.
Okay, so anything that doesn't have the lineage of the WWE should be removed. In other words, the World Heavyweight title, because what do you have? The WWE Universe, which is bigger than the World title. So it's obviously a consolation. It really is something.
Universe is an old title now. That the Universe title is gone, and now
no. The fan base is the Universe.
Yeah,
the
yeah. But there's actually the WWE Universal one.
Yeah, the Universe. That was like whatever. They really have, like Occam's razor, the simplest solution, the direct method. WWE is the company. WWE is the brand. So the WWE championships should all stay there. Then, now, forever, right? Until the world title. Then what do we have? Ruthless aggression and they call it the ruthless depression era. I love those comments right now. That's amazing. So go ahead.
I've got an even further one. Okay, you combine the 2 world titles. What do you call it? Do you call it the World Championship? Do you call it World Heavyweight Championship? Because there's been some non-heavyweights who've held it over the years. So what do you call it?
You don't have a heavyweight title without a cruiserweight title, a light heavyweight title. There's no differentiation unless you bring those back. So bring back the WWE title. Just a WWE title, because WWE, in their minds, is bigger than the world, is bigger than everything else. It is basically their universe of everything. So anything WWE, I think it's a great idea with the women's roster really showcasing, and a lot of times like Asuka and Io Sky had maybe the best match on the card. What was it recently? Backlash. I'm sorry, Backlash. They had a great match. So the women have earned their place to have their own set of titles. They need to be uniform across male and female divisions. In other words, WWE title, Intercontinental title. We're talking about lineage, right? So Intercontinental title and the WWE tag team titles. Now you're going to say, what happens to the US title? Get rid of it. Get rid of it. Because the cure for that, because you're saying, well, the symptom is one show is going to have all the champions and the other's not. That's a brand split that doesn't exist anymore until we need an episode of Raw to do the draft, because we ran out of all the legend shows, the anniversary shows, the season premiere. Now we need the draft. Am I wrong, James? They're just like, what did you say about the Slim Jim tables? What they're doing is trying to have a theme for the episode instead of trying to have the episode have a theme.
Okay, so I'll speed this up a little bit. So obviously, one men's world title, one women's world title, or WWE title, however you want to phrase it, one secondary title, which is IC for the men. Do you think the women should have a secondary title as well?
Yes. The Intercontinental title has the lineage, and now you have a women's version. I'm all for equal titles on both sides with that. And of course, the women's tag titles with that. That way, and here's when people say, well, one show is going to have more than the other, we can have all the women defend the titles on SmackDown, all the men on Raw. No. Here's the thing that brings a little bit of reality into it. What does the champion, or what should the champion make more of than everybody on the roster?
Money.
Money. That champion also now knows there's a huge responsibility that you thought your schedule was full before. Be careful what you wish for, right? You wanted to be champion. Now you have to defend the title on both shows, or now you have to appear on both shows. Now we have something. Now everybody is now who's not champion, whether it's world or intercontinental on the male or female side, is vying for a contendership for that title, one or the other. Now, here's where it can also go back to the days where you had do the Randy Savage blueprint. You come up, you wrestle locals, you have a lot of potential, you have a personal issue with somebody. If you can make it past that personal issue, what's the next step? Vying for an intercontinental title shot. You have a storyline connected to that. You win the intercontinental title. That's a testing ground to contend for what title? The World Heavyweight title, or the WWE title. So you got me tripped up already with all the belts. But do you see what I mean? Now you have a blueprint for every single talent who's being used as champion or contending for the title, or multiple people contending for the titles, and then people working their way up to contend for one of the titles. Or what happens after you lose the title? You go right back down to the bottom. You got to work your way back up.
Okay, further questions then. If the women only get one single secondary title, should it also be the Intercontinental? Could it be something else? Could it be the US? Could it be the North American? Could it be something completely different?
Now you get Women's World, WWE Women's title. I'm sorry, I'll get it right. WWE Women's Intercontinental title, and then Women's Tag Team Championship.
What would the design be for those belts then?
If you're going back to WWE, if you're going back and running back the lineage of these championships, the designs have to come back. And you make little tweaks, but the Women's Intercontinental title looks like your classic Ricky the Dragon Steamboat, Randy Savage, Ultimate Warrior. Just maybe the size of the belt is different, but it's differentiated between one or the other. We don't bring back the butterfly belt for the Divas or anything like that. Remember that one?
Mm-hmm.
But I feel like right then and there, you have these belts, these championships, at least those, maybe not on the women's side, but these championships and these belts have a lineage that run for decades and decades and decades.
What about belts you would consider bringing back?
Well, for the time being, none, because you really need to get the roster right. You need to get the format right. You need to get everybody in line and start taking care of everybody. Champion, contender, or somebody on the outer orbit of that. You need to take care of everybody. Like what they're doing with Obafemi, up until we're going to talk about the Brock Lesnar thing, but yeah, stay tuned. enjoy the show. But Obafemi, or even the beginning when LA Knight went from the model thing to LA Knight, think about what care could have been given to him. Or bringing back these classics, he's your throwback. The mix between The Rock, and we mention LA Knight every episode, so we're fans. But I think there needs to be quality over quantity right now. I think what they did was they created all these championships to sell merchandise, and then creatively it just became bankrupt.
So
I'm sorry if I'm taking all this way too seriously.
No, yeah, sorry, Bruce. I still love the Beat the Champ TV title, where you defend it on every TV show till you lose it, or like was it the WCW thing? If you make it so many defenses in a row, you win a big prize and it goes to the next person, kind of thing, or like 2 other people compete for it. I love that concept where there's always a potential title change, 10-minute time limit, etc.
That's a great idea. I'm only peeling it back to see if we can add that. Now, if you want to really, really make Netflix and SmackDown happy and your world champion or WWE champions
have the Dude Wipes title.
Well, that's coming. That's coming. Trust me. So didn't you say they've been enemies for a year in the making, and this match is sponsored by Dude Wipes?
Yeah, might as well be, yeah.
No, it wasn't like somebody in WrestleMania.
No, I was joking about that.
See, but yeah. Well, I take everything seriously, so I didn't know it was a joke. But with that, the TV title was excellent in the NWA, especially in the NWA, because Flair, or whoever was world champion, didn't need to appear every week, didn't need to defend the title every week. It was a special thing when he showed up. That was the psychology behind the television title. I can see that happening. AEW does it with the TNT and TBS titles, but they still feature the world champion. There needs to be, if you're going to have a television champion or somebody that defends a championship on the television shows on Raw and SmackDown, now we need to have a lot of discussions about, okay, how does this person stand up? How do we feature them as opposed to the actual WWE champion? How do they stand out?
There's European title, obviously, that was just a lower level title that was just randomly European. I mean, it wasn't random because it was meant to be the Bulldog and it went away. Would you ever bring back a hardcore title?
I'm not so sure. I mean, that was an excellent title for people they weren't doing anything with. And it kind of produced chaos on the show, Crash TV. And yeah, it was but they had a chance to bring it back. And what did they bring back? The 24/7 title. They really loved that.
What about the John Cena Classic title? Which it sounds more like, to me, it's going to be something not defended. It's going to be like more like King of the Ring. But let me just give you the rest of these. So NXT has got loads. They've got the NXT Championship, the Women's Championship, the North American Championship, the Women's North American Championship, the Heritage Cup, the Tag Team Championships, the Speed Championships, men and women as well. And yes, WWE Speed no longer exists, but the title still does.
Where do they defend that title?
On NXT.
It's just too much of everything. You can't creatively take care of talent, much less the champions. Their solution for it is what? And we see the format that's reversed. It's the reverse Savage blueprint. Okay, this person's going to debut, and in their first or second match, they're going to win a championship. That'll instantly get them over. But they forget about the hero's journey or the villain's journey. With that, where does everybody go after they win the title in their first 1 to 6 matches? Downward, right? We start to get on a downward trajectory. That's why we have the 50-50 booking right now, too.
Next question. The AX or Axe Presents. I know talking about positives in wrestling gets lower views.
Is this the Axe from the Night Stalker tights?
It could be one of two. There were 2 on those tights. I know talking about positives in wrestling gets lower views than reporting negatives. What could podcasters do to get more views on the positive side of wrestling? I've been watching wrestling for a few decades now, and I just feel like the negatives outbalance the positives, and too much negative leaves me thinking, why do I love this? Why is it getting harder to defend the art? Is it just because wrestling isn't as good?
Well, everybody says that in every era, previous era, so you have to look at current fan base. But there are a lot of videos that pop up because I watch the James Romero channel. Please subscribe and click the bell to get notified. He's finally smile. I got him to smile off camera. My God, smile when you go down there. Just smile. But
What?
that's what Vince used to tell everybody. Just
go
smile.
down where?
When you go down the ramp.
Oh, good. Right. I was
good
wondering
Lord.
if you were getting something else.
A different show. Stop it. It's not even for Patreon. So, where were we? Oh, you're talking about the negative and the positive. Here's the thing. I'm going to let you take this over from you look at the dashboard a lot more. You look at YouTube Studio, you look at what trends and the view difference with that, because you and I really do want to put positives out there. As a matter of fact, we have potential what went right during the Finn Balor, Dominic Mysterio, and JD McDonough thing from Raw. But we joke about it like Trish Stratus. We really we're talking very positively about her. And I don't think we broke 10,000 views yet on that video. And we were going to do a whole episode on her. But there's lots of videos going back to like how I watch your channel. In the related videos, it has at least 3 or 4 people, just fans, that comment on wrestling saying, I'm probably done with WWE. And a lot more have come up after this WrestleMania that we're just done. So there's more videos out there of fans and people who commentate, everybody in between, who say, I'm just done. I'm just going to watch all wrestling matches on YouTube or the network.
Well, wrestling's an abusive relationship. It always has been. For a lot of it. I mean, since you were in it, I'm sure you very
Especially
much
if you do it.
Yeah. That's interesting. You've seen a lot of those videos. So you think there's just been a proliferation since WrestleMania 42 of more people claiming they were done? What turned people off so much?
Well, I watched like 1 or 2 of them where it just said the money, the ads especially. If you're paying, you're still getting ads. There's still things you spoke about. An ad during JD McDonough's entrance where they just for the live house too. So I think the ads are becoming so, for lack of a better word, perverse and ridiculous right now that you basically you feel like you're getting 2.5, 3 hours of ads that sometimes feature wrestling. Is that a good way to describe it?
Yeah,
I think that's the number one thing.
You can totally tell that TKO has signed up so many sponsors, and now it's up to WWE to deal with it. I kind of think it's that way around, because when TKO became a thing, they fired a lot of people from the back office because there were just too many redundant roles, essentially, because a lot of people in UFC were doing the same things as people in WWE. So I think in the TKO office, there's a department out there to get sponsorship, and they've just got so much of it, which is a success. But then they kind of have to leave Triple H and whoever else formats the shows to find a place for these adverts. And at that point, it just becomes a joke. And the funny thing is with Netflix is that they charge so little for advertising space, or WWE does, because no one watches the live shows. So it's completely redundant in that sense. You don't make any money from the adverts unless they're on the ring canvas.
YouTube's playing it fast and loose now. If you noticed that besides the pre-roll ads, mid-roll, and then even after the video, that they put the lower third ad that you have to dismiss every time. And sometimes that will pop up too.
Oh, Facebook's doing that more as well now.
I don't recall. You let me know in the comments, everybody, and you let me know now, James. I don't recall ever looking at a YouTube ad and thinking, oh, wow, I need to get that. I never look at an ad on any of the wrestling that I watch and say, ooh, that would be good. It never converts me. Am I just a minority in this, or do you feel that way, that the first thing you think of with an ad, say the Slim Jim table spot or the Wheatley vodka ad or any of the other stuff, do you ever say, vodka would really go good with watching this match, or I should have a Slim Jim when watching wrestling? Or you just say, you almost have the Streisand effect, like in a way of negativity of saying you're repulsed by the ad, and now out of spite you're going to say, I will not buy that because you ruined my wrestling experience.
yeah, there's a saturation. It's almost like propaganda. It's not like this. If you get so much of it, it just wears you out, and then you ignore everything. You tune everything out. Like sponsorship and advertising has always got its place. I mean, that's how the world. That's how the media world turns. But there's so much now that it's all just. I can't remember. I haven't watched all of Raw. I even remember what was in the center of the canvas. I don't remember any of it because there's too much.
Well, yeah, when you have all that stuff, it's like, and you're paying attention to the matches, means you're not going to pay attention to the center of the canvas. I think they, most of the time now, have the WWE logo and then the corners and whatever else. But yeah, when I watch it, I don't feel like, and when I watch anything, I'm talking about football or anything else, the minute of 60, now they're doing 61, 62, 63-second ads. They're starting to really just kind of like boil that pot with all the frogs in it. But when I look at that, you know what I do? I pick up my phone to read an email. I talk to my wife. I wait for that next thing to come up. I pay no attention to any ad. To me, it's like white noise now. Do you feel that way too?
I've got YouTube Premium.
No, but I mean, when you're watching the wrestling and you see an ad come up, you're not really.
Well, that's kind of the weird thing for us. They cut them out automatically after a few hours. So we get the live stream, and then they cut out all the adverts.
What they do, like that "we'll be back soon" type thing?
No. They actually just cut out entirely. It's almost like getting anesthetic. You close your eyes and they wake up again, and like time's moved on.
But I mean, does the screen just turn black? Like on some of the other stuff that I watched, it'll say, "We'll be back soon," and it has a timer of the ads.
It will do for the first few hours, and then at some point, someone will go through it and then cut those bits out as well. So it's just like screen goes black, and then it's next segment straight away. So you don't have to forward through.
You know what's interesting? Real quick, what's interesting, but please comment below, and maybe we'll pin a comment and says, do you ever watch Raw live on Netflix? We do that just to see how many people don't watch it live, because they have to gauge that too. Is there a difference in trying to get, and you said the advertising, we looked at it to advertise our show. It was actually pretty affordable for a 30-second spot on Raw. But I'm really interested to see if somebody watches it live outside of reviewing it, like Ben. Once again, get well soon, Ben. When Ben and Vince have to do the Raw SmackDown review, he has to watch it the night before because they record early. So outside of that, is anybody really sitting there and watching a full episode of Raw live on Netflix?
Very few, apparently. Very few. People would rather just wait till the next day. All right, this original question was about podcasters talking negative, and then we just talked negatively about advertising. Okay, so what can people do to attract viewers? But here's the thing: what's negative? Is it like hating stuff for the sake of hating it, or is honesty negativity? Because some people actually claim that like, okay, and I'll give you an example. I was watching, because it came up on my YouTube Shorts thing. Haley, you remember the Hawk Tour girl?
Yeah.
And the meme coin that was a complete scam. And, it was a rug pull from the off. And basically, someone put in the comments, because it was a CoffeeZilla thing, really blew it up, among other people. And someone say, man, CoffeeZilla's great for this, and da-da-da. And people replying, saying, oh, I hate him. All he does is negative. All he does is expose blah, blah, blah. It's like, his job is to search out, actually be, have some integrity as a journalist and expose scams. And some people, whether they're bots or fakes or whatever it is, I don't know, but some people actually find that offensive, or they take it as a negative because they don't want to know how the sausage is made.
What's funny about that? We watch a guy named Sai who does like these home inspections on new builds and finds all sorts of problems, literally cutting corners, not doing stuff, things, just gas leaks and there's videos of him bringing the gas company out, and they're like, yeah, it only leaks gas under pressure. And it's like this, but then he gets comments from people that said, you're just putting out negative stuff. Why can't you ever say anything nice about DR Horton or these builders? We can't say the names because God forbid. But why can't you ever say anything nice about these builders? Meanwhile, 4, 5, 8, $900,000 new builds, and he's showing the shoddy workmanship. And there's people defending the builders. We live in it's the Agent Smith effect in a way, defending the Matrix. Don't tell me anything that I don't want to know.
There was also, like, we joke about the Trish Stratus thing. We put out a video and we thought, oh, we'll do a full video on, like, the women of WWE, which we may well still do, but we were going to do, like, a full one on Trish Stratus, and that clip did terribly. And we don't even know why. And the point is that at some point we do have to chase views. Like, we don't lie. We don't sugarcoat anything. We're not like, I think you're very balanced.
Yeah, you made a video about, and you talked about an MVP with hating Triple H and the difference between
the amount of comments on that were so negative. It was like, no, Triple H is responsible for absolutely everything wrong with WWE ever. He's one dude in a cog in the machine. He's not the top brass. And it's like, but people were like so virulently hating on Triple H for everything. And I think the argument was, well, if he wants to take credit for everything, then he should take, or the blame for everything as well. And it's like,
I don't think he takes credit for everything, though. He inserts himself into an awful lot, but he never takes credit. This is where we're different. He doesn't take credit for everything, and I've seen him take some blame. So, there's certain people in that company that won't take blame for anything. As far as they might take themselves a little too seriously, as a matter of fact. But at the same time, when you said that, trust me, everybody out there, we have a good time doing the show. We have fun doing the show. But also, we are wrestling fans at heart. We want to talk about how cool this was, how this was awesome. One of our favorite. When we talk about, like, say, Bret and Bulldog, SummerSlam 92, still brings goosebumps. I bet it does for you. Just a match that you can enjoy decades later. We just want that for current wrestling. And we have what went rights we want to put up there, like the JD McDonough, Finn Balor, Dominic Mysterio thing from Raw. That finish was really, really good. I liked it a lot. And it was just innovative in its own little way, and the way the finish came off with the trash can. But when we do that, we have to look at the numbers. We have to look at the stats. It will probably do, if we're lucky, anywhere from 1/8 to 1/10 the views of what went wrong.
That might be a bit extreme, but I mean, generally speaking, I will figure an okay video will do 20,000 in 24 hours. And if it does less than that, it's like, what have we done wrong? It's like the ECW thing. Like, we did a couple of clips of the ECW thing last week. I thought the Sabu thing would do really well. I really like the ECW's Weirdest Weapons clip as well. I was like, well, that's quirky and it's funny, and apparently people, I don't know, maybe it's just May thing, but people didn't click on it. But I think that'll be a slow burner. But also,
we don't avoid. Okay. By the way, we don't avoid the positive stuff and say, throw this to the side because we're only chasing this stuff, or it's a business. But at the same time, we have to have fulfillment when it comes to this. I especially have to enjoy what I'm doing and what I'm watching. And the other thing is educational and transformative with what went wrong. But I could sit here and study film on lots of current people, most of which that aren't getting pushed to the point they should be. So there is a little bit wrong with that. But talk about how Rip Rogers told Ben, bring Ben's up, and don't get Ben out of your thoughts and prayers. When I started the Wrestling Analysis channel the first time, Ben showed it to Rip, and Ben was like, this is really cool, and it hasn't been done. And Rip was like, yeah, it's really good. And he was watching What Went Right, by the way. He was watching me really talk positively about, I think it was Nia Jackson, Raquel Rodriguez, had a really good, like, two immovable objects, unstoppable force type of match. And he goes, this is great. It's fascinating. I get it. But it's too boring, and there's not enough negativity in the video for people to watch. That's Rip Rogers, who trains people, sees the value in it, but also sees the landscape of what most people will watch on YouTube. Gets it more than most people.
What do you think about people who just absolutely, and I'm sure not just in wrestling, but generally speaking, they'll just pander to the most base instincts as far as like manufactured outrage or
like rage bait?
Yeah, the rage bait or the screaming constantly, you know, the whole Alex Jones feminizing frogs or whatever that is kind of thing. But it happens a lot in wrestling. I think also with like wrestling podcasts and stuff, loads of them are trying to like come up with their own little characters and giving themselves nicknames and stuff. I don't get that either.
Oh yeah. I mean, there's no, I text somebody yesterday, I think my friend Danny, saying there's no fans left in wrestling. Actually, it was Chase. There's no fans or hardly any that are true fans. And I'll tell you this, when I sit there, even though I'm watching it with a trained eye over my wrestling career, when I put on that Brett Bulldog match, when I put on, let's think of other ones, like that SummerSlam match between the Brainbusters and the Hart Foundation, or after Demolition got inducted, started to watch some of their matches. I think I watched the match from WrestleMania 6 where they regained the titles of WrestleMania 6, correct?
Yeah, Haku and Andre, I think.
I watched those as Michael Manna, the kid who grew up wanting to be a pro wrestler. I seem to be transported back to that time and feel like a fan. So I want to become more of a fan as I do this with a lot of things. I want to enjoy and I want to become, even though we do the one right, one wrong, I like being an educator and I also like being a content creator, but I also want to be an ambassador to the business and show that this isn't easy to do, that these are real athletes and there's a real danger and there should be a real appreciation for what these guys and girls do.
Do you know what's interesting is that the whole opening up the wrestling business and everybody talking about, especially in the past 15 years or 20 years when YouTube was becoming more prominent and, you know, all these clips coming out and everything, it wasn't so much like exposing, I'll use the same phrase again, exposing how the sausage was made kind of thing that got wrestling fans more jaded or whatever. I think it's just because that like so many people, even on a basic level, kind of know more about how wrestling works these days, that it turns everybody into a critic. And I think that, like, more than anything else, that is kind of what has ruined wrestling a little bit, is the sense that everybody, if you've been paying attention, knows how most things to a certain extent work in pro wrestling. And therefore, everyone thinks they're qualified to... Not that you need a qualification. I mean, I don't know what I'm talking about.
Yes, you do.
Yes, you do. But you know what I mean, though? It's like everyone's now a critic, or everyone thinks that their opinions... same with social media. Like, everybody's voice is equal on social media.
There's this dance between, and this is where Triple H is getting... He got all the flowers, had the honeymoon period. Now he's become the villain. This is the tightrope dance that's between whatever fan base or audience and the people creating the product. You want to listen to people. The fans, they drive our show. They're driving this episode. We do listen to feedback and comments and try to improve it. But then again, we have our own vision for where we're going with this. And hopefully we pivot once in a while or we stay on course. If you listen to a ton of things and you lose your vision of what you're doing, then some people are going to become full-time critics of that because it's not within your vision, although their criticism, and this sounds political, but their criticism might be valid, but you still have to follow through with your vision. This is a weird tightrope dance between that, because then when you listen to them too much, people also change their minds all the time. So what do? Yeah, I don't envy Hunter and the spot he's in, because guess what? He is literally between a rock and a hard place. Not maybe the rock. I'm talking about TKO and the fan base. And he cannot win. I feel like he's losing on both sides right now. Trying to please the fans, trying to please the corporate. And what happens when you try to serve two masters? You serve none.
Next question from Jarvis Wood says, "Hello, Stevie. Big Show is one of my favourite wrestlers of all time, and he was really intimidating because of his stature. But I want to know from you, have you ever seen him get really angry or upset?"
The only time I saw him get really angry and upset was that Floyd Mayweather thing that happened on Raw when he broke his nose before their match at WrestleMania 24 in Orlando. He was mad. He was very mad, and I don't blame him. I've been there. I've been there as victim of a Polish hammer one Raw. So I've never seen him mad. I've actually seen Paul. I think he might be mad at me about the No Mercy thing. I still have not seen him since then, but he is actually one of the nicest guys, one of the most disarming people, and at the same time, one of the most intimidating people you ever meet just by the stature. But he is definitely like got a lot of charisma, a lot of poise, a lot of presence. I still contend that they did not do 1/10 of what they could have done with him in his wrestling career, especially WWF and WWE. And almost like they went out of their way to expose him and his flaws. But he's definitely somebody who's a legend, and I consider him to be a friend still, although I stole his video game spot.
With Big Show, I know obviously you've never met Andre the Giant, but you've heard, I'm sure, more than enough stories over the years about him struggling in public and in airports and getting around. And I'm not talking about him physically getting around. I'm talking about constantly being, I guess, the focus of people's attention when he didn't want to be the focus of attention. And I suspect Paul Wight has the same thing. I don't know if it's exactly to the same extent that Andre did, because I suppose he's not on the road. He was never on the road as much as they were in the 80s WWF. But how much was he struggling with people coming up to him or asking him the same usual questions about size, how do you fit into a shower, that kind of thing? And you said before he still has a great sense of humor and is really disarming and stuff. How, over the years, has he managed to keep that? Because I'm sure he's been frustrated numerous times with people even trying to start fights with him or try him or trying to rile him
There
up.
was that one time the guy did start a fight with him, and I think there was a famous, I think it was Jersey, something happened, ended up, police had to get involved and see what was going on, and I think the guy was provoking him. I'm just speaking from just a memory off the top of my head. You definitely have to provoke Paul a lot. He knows what he is. He knows he's a giant. His fist is like bigger than his teleprompter in front of us. He's a big dude, but he's also one of the most gentle people, not just gentle giants, gentle people you ever meet. And I think Paul, speaking for him, I think Paul, creative management, the promoters, the bookers, all those people, yeah, the frustration, but I've never seen him not be ultimately patient with a fan, especially children and other things like that. I think he knows it comes with the territory. And he's, you see in the second paragraph in the notes here, he re-signed with AEW. He and Mark Henry are kind of like ambassadors to the company, correct?
And
Mark
Big Show left.
Well, and Paul, I'm saying at the time when they were there, I know Mark's gone, but Paul was also a really good commentator, in my opinion. He really wasn't bad with that, and they gave him something to do. I don't know what his role is going to be re-signing. I didn't read the rest of the show notes.
I mean, no one knows what he was doing beforehand. I mean, I think he's done like a couple of commentary spots in 2 years. And they signed him to big money.
And most of it was on the secondary shows too after a bit, right? Wasn't
Collision,
it?
yeah. I think he did something on, was it like Full Gear? Like a couple of Full Gears?
Yeah,
he did commentary just to get involved.
But way back, he actually did like, I think Dark and Dark Elevation. He did like the secondary shows before Collision. I'm talking about the AEW ones.
Yeah, but they did the same with Mark Henry as well. It's like they had him doing the announcing on Collision, for the main event, that kind of thing. Then they didn't. And then they just kind of left him. So
you got to give it to Tony Khan. You know what I mean? I mean, Paul still has a lot to give the business and a lot of ways to represent this business, whether in AEW or not, and ways to make money. And he deserves to make money. For Tony to keep him around to do things, and Tony's just a guy that pays people, whether they're sitting at home, being ambassadors, working a full schedule. He pays them like they're professional athletes in a way. Like Ted Turner, rest in peace, paid WCW people like professional athletes.
I want to make another mention as well. because Paul Wight, the Big Show, former Big Show, did an interview where he said, and this isn't the first time he said it, but I think Andre the Giant pretty much got the same speech, was that because of the... So it's like a benign tumor, isn't it? Like that causes acromegaly. So it presses on the pituitary gland, causes abnormal growth, and they caught it in Paul, like as I guess as a teenager, and stopped
Yeah,
it.
like
But
13 or something like that.
Yeah.
I think he had to cut out.
But like his doctor told him at some point that he wasn't going to live past 45, and he's now 54, and he's in some of the best shape he's ever been, because he kind of goes through these like times where he just like really hits the gym hard and loses a ton of weight and stuff, but also, which I know you'll fully appreciate as well. But like a couple of years ago, his leg was bowing in from under him, like the Kevin Nash thing and the Great Khali thing. I guess it's just a giant thing, with all the weight pressing down over you, and now he's doing really well again. So I mean, that's good to see.
Yeah, that completely warms my heart. And is this something that knee buckling in, which is really, it was a scary looking photo and it went around quite a bit. Has that been rectified, or did he just lose more weight from that? I'd say this. If we still were in touch, I'd take a picture with Paul right now and say, we're twins. We're both 54. Can you tell the difference? You sure can. The big guy's actually leaner than the smaller guy.
He apparently got knee replacement surgery in August, as well as stuff for other injuries. So maybe?
So his knee was completely out of whack in that picture, and he got the replacement.
Yeah, so he says, in fact, in 2024, he says he's pain-free after having his knees and hips done. And there's a photo of him and company doing leg presses as well. So I think when we saw that picture of Paul Wight, I should say, that was at like the end of 2023, I think.
He had just come out of nowhere to be the mystery partner, and it was like we hadn't seen him for a while at that point, correct?
Isn't it terrible when you see somebody that you've not, like, a wrestling legend like Big Show, and you wish you hadn't seen him because he just looked like he was in horrible pain and he's deformed at that point.
Nobody who that's an excellent point. We're talking about negativity in one of the other questions earlier. I don't recall seeing one comment or one person pointing it out that was like the Nelson from Simpsons, like, aha, or anything mean like that, or saying, oh, he shouldn't be in the ring. They showed genuine concern, like, is Big Show okay, or is Paul Wight okay? And his leg looks terrible. He needs to get that look. I saw people really rally to say, it's kind of like people, if they notice, like someone noticed a lump on my throat, it's from the implant, but they emailed me and said, you should get that checked out. That's amazing, to show that kind of concern, like for Paul and me and other people. But I'm so happy he's doing better. And I hope when I see him, he's not mad about the No Mercy thing. Yeah. But I keep reminding him, I got to stop doing that.
I think he wants to get back in the ring I did recently AEW wrestlers who are still signed, who are not like retired or anything, who like the longest amount of time since they last wrestled. And I think Big Show is second or third on it, depending on the parameters you put on it. Who was number one?
Keith Lee.
Keith Lee, that's it. Jeez.
And I would love to see them work. That would be pretty interesting right there. That would be a good match where very minimal bumps or take, big man versus big man. And just like, I could see that being a really great, like, super heavyweight attraction match.
Okay, next question from Vowel 2. What are your thoughts on the women wrestling like the men? Should they make more adjustments to compensate for their typically smaller frame and body weight? Example, running the ropes doesn't look that good when the women do it due to less body weight to make the ropes move. Red Velvet does it like Rey Mysterio off the second rope, I guess, which makes it look way better.
No, I don't think they should really adjust anything. I think they're really progressing very well. I think they're equally, if not in some ways, better athletically than a lot of the guys. They can do a lot of impressive stuff. I think of women like Sol Ruca. I think even Liv Morgan with her character, how it's developed. I think even Roxanne Perez, you look at Raquel Rodriguez, dipped in and out of that Diesel blueprint, and I wish she would stay with that much, much more. Becky Lynch is somebody we contend that she has the wrong character, but she's over it. She needs to be a babyface, but it doesn't mean she hasn't earned her way into the spot she's at right now. that Nia Jackson, Lash Legend are like the giants in the women's division. You have Becky Bailey came out on Raw. I love the way she countered Liv Morgan's what's that called off the ropes where she hits the flatliner?
Oblivion?
Oblivion. She countered, hit her with the belly to belly. The women's wrestling, if you were trying to make them wrestle as they used to say, like women, nah, the mold of that was broken during the Victoria, Trish, Jazz, Molly Holly, who else you throw in there?
Ivory, Jackie.
Ivory. Yeah, China, all those things. Yeah, Jackie, everybody, if I'm missing anybody during that time. And we're talking about that's like 2 decades ago or more. So the women today should not alter what they do. All I feel like they should do, sometimes with certain bumps, you do have to take into account the lack of size, how, your bones are a lot closer to taking those bumps on the apron, on the floor, things like that. But running the ropes, when guys run the ropes, now I bounce off the ropes depending on if they're cable or rope, but the WWE rings, when you're running off the ropes, there's hardly any bounce anyway, whether you're male or female. You're kind of like not stopping like Brian Clark did in WCW during the watch along, but you're running in, you're getting your back against there, but you're also using your own energy to run forward. So I like what this person said about Red Velvet in AEW doing it like Rey Mysterio does, but depending upon your size, could Liv Morgan run the ropes like that or Roxanne Perez? Yeah, but a Becky Lynch and other ones like Sol Roca can run the ropes like standard, technique with that. But the short answer, no, they're doing really, really well. It's just that the formatting creatively is like, now it's your turn to be champion. Now you lose to that person. Now it's their person to be or their turn. Then they think at the end of all this 50-50 booking that they're all over. But doesn't work out that way. What do you think? What say you?
Oh, yeah, basically the same. I mean, honestly, this is not my remit to throw in anything.
But as a fan, do you notice any discrepancy that should be addressed or any kind of separation that you see where you're saying you're just trying to wrestle like dudes?
Yeah, well, only in the sense that they're rehearsing their moves and their spots so much that it's really obvious. But I always think it's more obvious with the women in general than the men.
The thing with the women that makes it obvious, and the guys do it too. I told Brian Clark had Hot Wheels feet in that watch along with Sid Vicious. They don't, and this is actually an indictment of modern wrestling of, hey, tell the referee, tell them they got to be in that corner, that exact corner there. I know they're here. Tell them to run all the way around to that corner. It's way too wrestle by numbers, and they don't allow the talent to grow and say, okay, they told me kind of be over in that corner, but we're way close to this corner. Can we do something here and work our way there? Or just, and this is a split second, they haven't trained anybody correctly to think on their feet and have audibles. The only ones that do that really well are the ones that worked the indies before they got to WWE.
Next question. This is an interesting one. Sam says, why has the WWE let so many wrestlers share the same finishes? There's so many moonsault splashes and spears. Even the cutter RKO is being copied.
I honestly don't know. Is there anything that they've addressed in media scrums or press releases or interviews where they said that? Because I thought the super kick's one thing, moonsaults, splashes, but the two that really stick out to me, although I will say, Javon Evans is really over. Those people rumble and make noise when he's like trampolining his way up to the top rope for the OG cutter. It's an over move and nobody's chanting, which I'm shocked. It's actually a compliment to Javon Evans and whoever puts it together with the match. I never hear people chanting RKO. We want Randy. Have you noticed that? That's a really surprising positive. But the two moves, including the RKO and the other one, that I thought would be ultra protected right now would be that and the spear. I don't know why. I mean, Braun Breaker does a great spear, but you thought Roman Reigns is doing it, Jey Uso's doing it, and like it should stop right there. Even Jimmy Uso is doing it. But it's a strange climate right now where like nothing is off the table if you want to do a move set.
Charlotte
but guess
Flair
what?
was
I
doing
would still not
spears.
do. I would still not do the super kick if Shawn Michaels was wrestling. I just have that old school mentality.
Like Charlotte Flair was doing the spear. It looked awful. Here's the thing. There's more than one person doing Prettiest Moonsault ever. Tiffany and Jacob Fatu. They both have that finisher. There are 3 separate people doing cutters as finishers, at least. Randy, Javon, and the Soul
Cody.
Snatcher. Sol Ruka's doing it.
Well, and Cody.
And Cody's
Cody
doing
Carter.
it. So that's 4. I'm sorry. There's 4 separate people doing versions of the cutter. 3 of them are off the top rope. What was the other one? What was the other one?
Well, the spears.
And the spears as
There's
well.
super kicks. You talked about the moonsaults. Those are the main ones used as finishes that seem to be across the board. No matter what, you're going to put it somewhere in there.
And here's the thing with finishers is that come the big matches, or not even the big matches, people kick out. They kick out of them. So once they kick out of one Prettiest Moonsault ever, then it kind of renders the other one not as impressive. I mean, maybe in Jacob Fatu's case. But the thing is, Roman Reigns kicked out of that as well. And here's the other, I want to ask you this as well. You know the Tongan Death Grip that Jacob Fatu brought back after WrestleMania? And then at Backlash, pretty much immediately, Roman Reigns, it didn't get the job done within weeks. But this is meant to be like the new threatening, finisher kind of thing that he did on Roman after Backlash and during Backlash as well.
You got to say it right. I'm not going to answer your question.
I didn't do a good one.
Backlash. Isn't that something, a memorable character he created just off the name of a pay-per-view? We're still goofing about it. I'm genuinely interested to know. I'm wondering, I don't have an answer for this. What was the edict? What was the rule change that allowed the floodgates to open for these moves? That you don't have somebody like a Roman Reigns or even a Randy Orton going up, maybe not to Javon Evans, but to the agent or management saying, hey, why don't you or even about Cody saying, hey, that's my finish. Or Cody and Javon Evans, Cody understands. So it's got to be a company-wide thing that opened up said floodgate to say any move is open season now. There's no move off limit or no limit protect or no move protected at this point. I'm wondering how the company is kind of really justifying this in a way. And if you're saying, well, you're just an old head and that's just the way it is, we also live in a very much a short attention span culture. We live in the already seen it, already done it, what now kind of culture. Very interesting.
Isn't it also weird? At one point, weren't there 3 separate people doing the Crossroads? Because there was Cody, there was Bray, and there was Alexa Bliss as well. So the 3 separate people had the same. Go on.
Damian Priest used it.
Damian Priest used it as well. There was 4 separate people doing the Crossroads as well. And when was the last time you made a character on a game? Let's say it was years and years ago, right? But there were like a million different moves you could pick, and at least 100,000 of them were finishes. And I was thinking for Jacob Fatu, Rikishi's old finisher used to be a splash from the top rope, and dare I say, it looked more impactful than the moonsault that Fatu does, or at least on the same path.
You see the body spread out, the face, the intensity, then literally bring it in like he's engulfing the person that's on the mat.
It's more TV friendly, and it's easier to do, and you kind of can do it probably more safely. Night to night.
Yeah, absolutely. I think even though his moonsault's super impressive, Jey Uso turned a splash into a finish. Think about that. He definitely did it. Did Jimmy Uso, all the Samoans that could do it would make it a finish. It used to be with the head shrinkers, used to make the splash a finish. But yeah, I mean, sometimes going back to the Tongan Death Grip, like you said, has already been, hey, we can just counter. Hey, take it right down. You're done. but it could have been it could have been the new mandible claw in a way where people saw it as a threat to incapacitate a person. So I would have loved to see vignettes of Haku teaching Jacob Fatu how to do it.
Ricky Morton, actually, it was Chris Jericho told a story about Ricky Morton. So when they went to Smoky Mountain Wrestling in '94, I think, was Jericho and Lance Storm, what the Thrill Seekers.
Thrill Seekers.
Seeking all those thrills they were, teacup ride or whatever they were doing. And their finish was a double drop kick off the top rope, like a tandem deal, right? And Ricky Morton pulled them aside and said, don't do that here, because our finish as the established number one tag team is a standing double drop kick, and it renders our finish ridiculous. You're doing a much better version of our finish, and we can't have that. I mean, I'm sure he said it very nicely and very logically, but no one seems to say that now. People just go, yeah, okay. When do you think the Tombstone's going to come back?
Yeah, but I have no doubt the Tombstone's going to come back, and I have no doubt that they're going to do it a lot less safe than Undertaker did it. So I hope it doesn't come back. But that's what I'm saying. What you just said right there. If the boys and the girls are not policing these finishes and protecting them in the locker room, because if management doesn't say it, the talent already knows coming in, okay, I did this finish like myself. I did the kick. Sean wasn't here. Sean's here. Go right up to Sean. I'm not doing the kick anymore, at least as a finish, but I'm not going to do it for a while. And you know what? He was like, no, it's okay. It's fine. Playing it very graciously. And I insisted, Sean, no way. It's sweet chin music. It's not even a Stevie kick or a super kick. It's all you. And I 100% meant that to say, I'm not going to do it. I didn't need the office to tell me. Now, they came up to me like a day or so later or next TV and said it. And I said, I've already talked to Sean about it. I'm like, okay, good. That's missing. So my assumption is, based upon the evidence of everybody doing everybody's finishes, that the company approves of it. Because the talent would shut it down themselves. Somebody would go to wrestler's court, or somebody would at least be pulled aside and say, please don't do that again. Didn't John Cena do that to Tyler Rex? Didn't he do something similar? Or no, it was...
No, he was doing a burning hammer, and for some reason it kind of, I don't know, it was Callisto or something like that. Messed it up.
The guy turned it to look like an FU.
Yeah.
Like an attitude adjustment.
And that basically got him fired. Ultimately, I think pretty much is the, or at least started his downfall in the company, because Cena didn't like
what
it.
I'm saying is, though, if there's nothing to be said, and there's still nothing to be said, it has to be company policy and approved now. Because a John Cena, a Roman Reigns, a Randy Orton, Roman Reigns and Randy Orton, would you dare do their finishes if the office and the talent wasn't under the understanding? Because you would be like, I'm instantly done as soon as I start. Even Sol Ruka, like, we don't care. That's my move, and you're making it look less than what your move is. Now, I will say this, the psychology Randy puts into the RKO, and even the psychology that Roman Reigns puts into the Spear, with their characters, cannot be matched. But you know what? Why even try to match it then?
This kind of follows up in a sense, because it's also about finishes. So DJ Watts writes in and says, just watched Callum Newman's New Japan Cup win, and I'm all in. He's got a great look, character, and moveset in general. However, he's got about 5 finishes, the 5th being debuted during the New Japan Cup finals. How many finishes do you feel is too many for one wrestler to have? I feel like 3 is a good number, or if you have more, they are only used for very special circumstances.
I would say probably, if you're going to talk about an all-around encompassing blueprint of what a finish should be, depending upon the type of wrestler, for instance, they should have one move that's some kind of striking finish or some kind of like a splash, whatever, where you take a bump or they land on you as you're immobilized in the ring. If you want a second finish that is completely separate, or something to where you have it as an alternate, like a surprise finish that you put on somebody, a submission. So if you're that type of wrestler, the impactful finish in the submission finish. Now there's something called the 5 moves of doom. If you have a finish, the setup moves can also be false finishes like Bret. If Bret's got the 5 moves of doom are famous for Bret, Kevin Nash, Hulk Hogan, Flair, even those kinds of people. But you can also get flash finishes or sudden finishes to surprise an opponent out of those to establish those as a potential finish. When you get into 3 to 5, 5 is way too much. Now all your finishes, you got to prostitute like 4 of them now in order to set them up. So now they're not finishes, but they're false finishes. I'd say you have to get one finish completely over to the max that you can. And then if you have to have somebody kick out of that, here comes the backup finish. What do you feel about that?
I think there's one person who had loads of finishes and it really worked out well for them was Vader. Because he had like the powerbomb, the Vader splash, the moonsault. He may have even had another one for all I know.
Yeah, but he had to escalate to the moonsault.
Yeah.
And most times he missed it. Vader's finishes were either escalating finishes in circumstances where somebody go out of the ring, they would kick out, there would be some kind of distraction to it, or he just outright would beat people, locals, with different finishes. Or say the splash, not off the top rope, not the moonsault, but there would be something that would happen to the babyface and the person would take a bump, be stunned, Vader would splash them and then pin them. It would be a circumstance-driven finish. But let's think about this. Anything Vader did could be a finish to you. You know?
Next question from Frank Charney. How would you review your time living in Connecticut? Jim Cornette notoriously buries the state and did not enjoy living there.
Well, at the time when I lived in Connecticut, and I lived in Philly, and then Connecticut was the New England area, not the old England area like you live in. But they have a lot of history. They have a lot of historical houses, historical buildings. And my wife, admittedly, is talking about possibly moving up there to like a Maine, New Hampshire, Vermont, not Connecticut, Massachusetts. But I enjoyed living there. I mean, the winters were kind of rough here and there, but I enjoyed the fall and the spring and the fact that I could go to places like Water's Edge over there on the coast of Connecticut and things like that. Now, the reason why I moved to Connecticut never really showed itself or never really got converted over. I moved to Connecticut to be closer to the headquarters, be closer to Titan Towers in order to learn the production, to learn behind the scenes, to learn what goes in talent relations into the office. And I was constantly turned away every time. So that plan didn't work out. But here's the funny part. Chase, who I work with on the other tech and gaming channel, he lives basically about 5 minutes from where I lived in Connecticut. So it's like a small world. So we were talking about that. And actually, he went to the buffet that I used to go to where they would throw me out because I would just they had sushi. I would just take the whole plate from underneath the thing and put it on my table. Because why bother making multiple trips? But all in all, your answer, Frank, is I actually, outside of the high property taxes, the high cost of living, and everything else in Connecticut, even back then, when I moved away in 2008, I enjoyed living there, and my wife has plans to maybe have us go up to New Hampshire and live up there.
Is it like the lack of Southern hospitality thing? I guess then, because, I've not really traveled the state, so I don't know fully, but I guess if you're from a Tennessee or a
Kentucky
or wherever it is, yeah, that it's just a completely different way of living, and it's I guess it's the kind of like opposite from here, because like up north here, people say hello to you in the streets, and it's a lot friendlier, but like down in London, you can't get a hello for love nor money. And it's just one of those things. You're talking about
city versus suburbs.
Yeah.
Okay. Well, that's an important point because that's what I was about to bring up. I don't know where Cornette lived, but even up where I lived, which was about an hour north of Stamford, they were nicer. But when you get into the Greenwich, Stamford, even Westport, whatever it might be, those people go to New York City to work. you're around those city people. Even if you're in Connecticut, it's sometimes a lot snootier because it's one of the richest. Those areas I mentioned are some of the richest areas in the entire country. Like right up there with Beverly Hills, and the taxes there, the property taxes and other things, cost of living. I'm sure the traffic was worse than Louisville. So yeah, Jim's got a point there, but I've also been to Kentucky and I've ran into a lot of people that talk like Jim Cornette with F-bombs, MF this, MF that. So they're everywhere.
What states have you lived in?
Well, Pennsylvania, Jersey, um, Kansas,
Kansas?
Florida, Kansas, the state. Yeah.
Why?
Right by Missouri.
When was this?
Well, I took that job at that rec center to run their events and their gym and everything like that.
What
I
year
took a
was this?
full-time job there.
What year was this?
This was 2014, and then I took the job at TDPO in December of 2014. I didn't last too long out there, but it was a good experience. So I lived in Kansas, and I also lived in Florida, Georgia, and that's about it. Where else? No, that was about it. I traveled a lot, saw a lot of places.
Could you rank the states as far as like a general feeling of being there and what kind of felt like more homely, more enjoyable?
You know what's funny is even today, my wife and I talked about it because we talked about how we might renew our lease where we're at. Nothing has ever felt like home to me. For a time, maybe in Connecticut, because it was my second house. I bought a house in Florida before that, but I was never home to feel like I was making a home because I was so busy. Now it's the fact of trying to find a place where they don't overdevelop. Good luck with that anywhere right now, right? Where they're not developing cheap new builds and stuff like that, where you can get some land and get some peace. So nothing has felt like home. I mean, anywhere I go, my wife and my cats, it's going to be home. But no house or no dwelling, no state has ever really felt like home. Even Philadelphia growing up, and this is a theme throughout my life, I never felt like I fit in. So that never felt like home to me. Really strange. I'm a drifter.
Not the drifter though. Not like
not the drifter. I'm not the drifter Elias. You see on Dateline NBC or anything like that.
With Connecticut, I want to dive into this a bit deeper. How expensive was it?
Oh, put it this way. Back then, I had a townhome, which I really, really loved. I actually bought it twice. I bought it back after I sold it. I had that townhome. So basically, for property taxes on that townhome in 2008 was over $3,000 a year. The insurance was not as expensive as Florida is now because it's out of control in Florida. Probably about $1,000 to $1,500 a year. Gas was pretty expensive, but not as expensive as you went south towards New York City. Then it got more expensive. Cost of living, I put it this way, when I got released, just to reduce my overhead, that's when I sold the house the second time because I needed to. Not because I was broke or anything, because I didn't want, I didn't know what my income was going to be, so I was trying to lower it. Rent wasn't that bad, so I ended up selling the house.
It's funny, when you said, you moved so closely to WWE headquarters, I thought you were going to say because they had a great gym.
No, I worked out in the gym all the time. Yeah, that's why I always saw Michael Hayes on the Stairmaster for over an hour, but never got in better shape.
Oh, he actually, okay, when you say used it, you mean he stood on it?
No, he was on it, dude. He was pouring buckets of sweat. He was definitely using it. I give him credit for that. I don't know what happened in the 23 hours between stair climber sessions, but he worked out hard, dude. I'll give him credit.
Okay, and one more thing. Who else would you see in the gym often at that time?
Well, the one time, famously, I saw all the Tough Enough people, including Maven. That was the first time I met Maven. I met all them in there, did cardio with Maven, a couple other people. I never saw Vince there because most of the time I was there was when they opened. They were 24 hours. And then one day when I scanned my card, they weren't open till 6 a.m. because they said somebody was getting there at 3:30 a.m. And I hope they find that guy. And that was when I was super duper, like, dialed in going from 262 trying to go back down under 200. And Vince had heard about that, and I don't know what happened. It went from 24 hours to 6 a.m. back to 24 hours somehow, the key card access.
Was that after you left in around mid-2008 by any chance? You went back to 24 hours?
No. I mean, while I was trying to lose the weight in 2000, around that time, I think he was like, just let the kid have it.
Next question from Marcus Orlandi, I believe. How do you take a brainbuster safely? To me, it always looks like they land on the top of their head. Love the show. So I've sent you a compilation of brainbuster videos, Stevie. There's actually more than one on YouTube as well. But this one will more than suffice. So if you'd be so good, can you take us through the mechanics of a brainbuster, which I think everyone can imagine is one of the more dangerous moves one can perform. How do you do one safely?
All right. Thank you very much, James. I think before we even look at all these examples of a brainbuster, the thing you have to remember is a brainbuster is a regular suplex where you just drop somebody a little bit higher than the small of their back. In other words, around the shoulder blade area, it's a little bit tougher of a bump than a suplex, but if it's done correctly, the tuck and the snap over clears you to the point where Eddie Guerrero, if he's in these examples, if he's not, you ever notice Eddie Guerrero and Dean Malenko were the best? Because it was literally a suplex, but it was almost a rolling bump into the suplex, but it wasn't as high as like a Sami Zayn or who else? Oh, Coco Beware, my goodness, the Ghostbuster. Good Lord. I mean, it went right if you're trying to drop somebody on your head, but it went wrong if you're not. So let's take a look at this first one. Very well done. But it still hurts because it's on the mats. So I'm going to take this step by step. The snap here, coming up into this, and watch the guy drop. It's almost like the kick out of the feet and dropping. Do you see how the guy right here, he's landing high on his shoulder? Still not an easy bump, but you see where they're landing? Not on the head, but the upper back. So your upper back lands right before the lower back on a regular suplex. And there's that. That's very well done. Although on the mat, it's still not a great. Oh, AJ is one of the best to do it. Because he kicks, I think, this one leg up in the air. Also, AJ, this is the setup where AJ used to do. The guy would land on his feet and AJ with the neck breaker because he would snap the guy over. Let's see AJ's in real time. Oh, do you see that? How AJ kind of kicked his body and then moved his shoulder sideways. You can't really see it because of the rope and the cut. But see how the guy's landing more right here? The rope's going to get in the way. But you can kind of see the upper back is where he's dropped. Very well done. Oh, he's a good friend, Ricochet. Friend of the show. This is Aleister Black. Ooh, that's different.
Is that Adam Cole he's got?
That's Adam Cole, I believe he's doing it too. Or is it Roddy?
No, yeah, it's Roddy. He's got strong on his trunks, yeah.
Roddy. Ooh. That's something else. See, he's tucking him, but he's in this direction. He's still trying to tuck upper shoulder, but he's like doing it almost like a modified impaler DDT like Gangrel does, but turning him on the side. I like that the camera's shielded from the actual, he did land him where he needed to, but that 45-degree turn is a bit dangerous. Now, Tommy End, Aleister Black, he's a pro, so he protected him. Let's see here. I like the kick of the feet. Do you see how it's basically a suplex where he lands high? That's a good brainbuster. Very nice. Almost like a jackhammer, right? The thing that makes the Brainbuster, there's two different techniques with the Brainbuster. Either like AJ would bring the guy up and drop him quick, like really quick, too fast before anybody realizes it's a protected Brainbuster, or hold up like the Bulldog for a high vertical and just drop. That was the Coco Beware, where the anticipation led to a real Brainbuster. So let's look at this. Do you see the difference? Like the hold, still tucking the chin. That's a little bit more high neck, because see how the legs are still straight up in the air? A little bit more dangerous there. Let's see Bobby Lashley. He'll Brainbuster you later, whether you like it or not. Ooh, ooh, ooh. I remember this. Was this a what went wrong?
Not for us, no.
Oh, goodness. He just let him go, didn't he?
Who is that?
That was Saudi Arabia, I think, right?
Who's he got?
Is that Big Cass? Looks like Big Cass, doesn't it?
Maybe this Greatest Royal Run was 2018, so I guess Big Cass was still there.
That's Cass. Look at the hair and oh, he just lost him because Cass is so tall, but he dropped him on the worst part of the ring too. Right there. Bronson Reed. He does it like a suplex, kicks the right leg up. That's basically a suplex. Do you see that? But it's just a higher, he's landing a little higher right there. Good suplex. I think a lot of times to protect people more, you kind of lean your body to the side. He kicks this up for effect while the body twists and hits it.
You can play the rest of these right through if there's any that you want to just pick up after the fact.
Ooh, he lost him there. He just lost him, but he protected him. Pete Dunne does a really good one. Put to the floor. Cedric, excellent. Oh, I love that right there. Drop. It's basically a suplex with the feet up, but see how the legs kick out and he's kind of flattened? Here's Drew. Suplex. Basic. That was almost like a
Michinoku suplex, a driver almost.
Oh, you know who this reminds me of? Al Snow Snowplow. That's what it looks like. Look. Boom. Poor Ricochet. Nice. The way he did that was he snaps the body and pushes off the stomach. Do you see that? The tuck right in there. Oh, that's one of the clones. Ooh, nice. That was like Dustin Rhodes with his suplex. The spinning suplex. Even Bobby Eaton used to do it that way. I like that. That shows power. He's still helping him here, but it looks like he's picking him up from his knees. Is that Cesaro? Who was that?
That's NXT UK. Is that Rockstar Spud? Who he's dropping?
I don't know. Is that Birch? What's his name?
Joey Mercury.
No, it's one of the Paul Birch.
No.
Not Paul Birch. Let's see here. Oh, nice. Oh, really good. Dude, that sucks. You have no people in that crowd. You got to take these bumps. And you're not even on right. It's main event. Nice.
Oh, this is the one, isn't it? Oh.
Well, that's a Brainbuster that was supposed to be a jackhammer.
We'll do a couple more then. Do you know, we need to go through that because I know you did that on the old channel. We need to do the Undertaker thing again. We should just do that entire match and watch it.
Nice. Okay, I can watch those forever. A very great compilation. Thank you very much. Awesome stuff. I am very impressed It takes so much body control and real strength. And also, the technique is so accurate because you are landing somebody. It's not an easy bump. You're still landing up here. You ever get a knot in your upper back or between your shoulder blades or your trap? It'll cause that. But man, it takes a great deal of effort to disguise a high suplex as a brainbuster. And if you say, well, that looked like a real brainbuster, like Coco Beware. Yep, as Jeff Farmer would say.
With the stalling suplex into a brainbuster, is it just a lot harder to then get that kind of roll through kind of thing? Does that kind of like narrow the scope for as far as doing it safely?
No, I think it's actually easier except for the strength factor of holding them up as they assist you. Because when you're up there, people, and especially if you're watching from home and it's right camera angle, it looks like they're really high up in the air. And what does that give you time to do on the way down? To do the sudden tuck. Now, some people like AJ and Bronson Reed put an extra safety factor of turning their body in towards their opponent sideways, which, by the way, doesn't feel good on their hip, I know for a fact. But the sudden tuck gives you that room up here when they're in the high vertical. It actually is better in a lot of ways. It's, you know what it is? They're suspended in midair, and here comes the sudden stop.
Could you imagine anyone getting like shoulder issues from this kind of thing, from either the giver or taker?
Yeah, but I can see shoulder issues just from DDTs, from face bumps, from apron bumps. But if you take the brainbuster on the floor, and even if they're protecting you, it's going to jam you up. That's something I don't agree with. And even then, I watch those and I'm like, that wasn't even the finish. You drop somebody, quote, on their head, and they're going to just make a comeback after that?
Next and final fan question of this episode from Aminon. I nearly said Amon. Stevie, if you could do it all over again, would you?
Your least favorite question, and actually, in theory, one of my least favorite questions, because when I look at that question, I look at three words I think of, and we talked about it on the pre-show about changing things, going back, doing the Biff Tannen Sports Almanac from Back to the Future, or even just changing Terry Funk dropping the guardrail on my neck, or, you know, with the ECW stuff and neck injury and surgery and all that stuff. I think of the butterfly effect. Those are the three words I think of. If I changed all that, what would today look like? Would I even have this show? Would I have perspective? If I didn't hit rock bottom creatively or even personally sometimes or medically, would any of this happen? Would I have met my wife? Would I have the life I have right now? If you say there's a 1% chance or a fraction of a percentage chance that my life would be markedly different right now, good, bad, or indifferent, it would just be different, I would say no. I wouldn't change anything. Kind of sucks sometimes. I'm tempted. It's a big temptation. If I knew that there was going to be a guardrail dropped on my neck and I wouldn't be able to feel my legs, and I would constantly make bad personal and professional decisions from that point, man, it's so tempting. But I have to say no. Because ultimately, where I'm at now, all those things lead to now. Sounds so cliche to say, and I say it trepidatiously because the flawed ego in me says, man, I would love to go back and make it all perfect. Can't do it. Wouldn't do it. Shouldn't do it.
We can't.
Because then we'd lead to a whole bunch of Mandela effects. Can't do it. Well, I'm pretty nerdy. I can build. We have the technology. Maybe we can build it. Oh, you're very interested now. Oh, you're never interested when I show Game Boy Advances and stuff, but I'm saying...
Yeah, but there's a difference between Game Boy Advances and time travel as far as concepts.
Well, if you used a Game Boy Advance time travel, they'd be related.
I never had a Game Boy Advance. I skipped from the.
You were like, oh my God, I can go back and bet on the World
Dude,
Cup.
that's totally what I said. I just try and like remember all the lottery numbers and like winners of every like golf masters. I just bet them.
Not saving JFK or anything.
Total self-interest. Well, you said Mandela effect. I'm after total self-interest here. It's fine.
I would have kind of tried to save the world, but maybe I would have made the world a much worse place.
Or you would have shot Hitler or something.
I would have tried to do something, not say, okay, what's the wild five?
Okay, then. So that is it for all of the audience fan questions. Thank you so much for submitting them. I may do a post in a couple of weeks asking for more, soliciting more. So keep an eye out on the YouTube channels. It's not the community board. That's something different now. The post section. And if you subscribe to the Stevie Richards Show YouTube channel, it should come up in your feed when I make that post asking for future questions. Right. We're going to get to the news. We've got a few things to talk about. And the first thing is Brock Lesnar has returned to WWE Raw. He came back, attacked Obafemi from behind, gave him 4 F5s, and then left. And then backstage, there was a deal between Adam Pearce and Paul Heyman that we'll talk about in a minute. But I went back on the video that we did about a month ago. We did 2 videos, in fact, about Brock Lesnar's retirement, so-called retirement, whether he thought he meant it or not. And we were kind of the opinion that it's like, kind of looked genuine. And I think it was of the, was it pretty much like, until proved differently, we're kind of going to go with the fact that it's probably real. So what happened?
Well, your guess is as good as mine, but there was something put out not long after that WWE was suing, quote, we don't know, work or whatever, suing Brock Lesnar, and they didn't know he was going to do that at WrestleMania. Because it was out of the blue. He didn't even say, if I lose, I'm done. Lose relief, WWE, or anything like that. So the reason why we thought it was real was because there was literally no thought or anticipation put forward in this match to say this was going to be a Brock Lesnar or Brock Lesnar retirement match. But could there be any kind of smoke or fire where the smoke is about them saying you have more dates to fulfill or you need to finish out your contract or we're going to sue you?
I was interested in that theory as well, because I was trying to think, what was the... Well, one, I didn't realize if like this was all part of the plan. I didn't realize that Brock was such a good actor.
Yeah, apparently, I mean, he might be. He sure as heck seems like he is now, if this was all just a work or if this is a shoot now put back in the work sense of him finishing. Because really, if he goes to retire this time, should it be Gunther now? Should that come back around?
We'll get to the booking implications of this after the fact, but I'll ask what the point is at the end, I suppose. It's really the backstage confrontation between Adam Pearce, Raw general manager, and Paul Heyman. So Heyman confirms that Brock Lesnar is retired, and then he immediately produces a contract saying Brock Lesnar has signed his name for this contract for a match with Obafemi at Clash in Italy. But he is retired.
I guess there's hope for me. I'm retired. I must, my back.
Are you?
Well, if I say I'm retired, then my back doesn't know it's still taking bumps. And therefore the herniated disc will not move. And somehow in the wrestling bubble, there's some wrestlers going, yeah, that makes perfect sense. As much sense as a retired person entering an active wrestler professional wrestling match.
So what was, and also Paul Heyman, of course, famously says Brock Lesnar, or Lesnar, whatever I tried to say it wrong on my video and I said it right.
Is Brock Lesnar retired, but Brock Lesnar or Lesnar is coming back. They just forgot to put the mask on. Dirty, the yellow dog. Who is Dutch? I saw those vignettes of him talking to himself in the pickup truck when he was
Texas Dirt from
Texas Dirt. Texas Dirt is coming back at Clash of Italy. Saskatchewan Dirt is coming back. Or Saskatoon. That's where he lives.
It's so odd. It's really odd because, like, okay, here's the first conspiracy theory I'm going to throw at you then. Do you think, hand on heart, that this was planned by WWE, that he was going to retire at WrestleMania 42, but it was going to be a fake retirement from the off? And if so, what was the point?
My hand on my heart. Not we the people.
We the people?
No, we the people have no idea. I don't know. I'm looking at that. All right, here's maybe the old head wrestler in me. This is a Cornette, Dutch, and whoever else from that era asking this question, which I'm sure he's asked, maybe in a different way. Okay, you've done that, but why? What's the payoff? What's the ride we're taking on the fans except a bait and switch? What are we doing here to sell tickets? Now that we're going to sell tickets to the rematch, but what in a storyline sense, how does Obafemi come into this, that Brock Lesnar attacked him after metaphorically passing the torch? I know Dutch doesn't like that, passing the torch to Obafemi, that he's the next big thing after the next big thing. If these questions can't be answered, I have to lean towards this was not planned. This was not a creative decision. This was a Brock Lesnar decision to retire. Then Brock Lesnar said, I am not finished. This feels like they're scrambling to make sense out of something that doesn't make sense to them. Do you see?
There was the commentators seemed, because they didn't call it retirement either, they seemed kind of genuinely taken aback. I'd love to know if they were told anything at WrestleMania 42. I would love, because quite clearly the video production team were not told on Raw, because the day after they had the most hodgepodge slapdash video that they put together honoring Brock's career.
Another point that lets me believe that this was an out of nowhere type thing. I'm with you on that.
Well, it's either out of nowhere or they told so few people that they wanted this to be a huge surprise. But then does it just become the swerve for the sake of the swerve, to coin a phrase?
Yeah, I think so, because now do we have a boy or cried wolf situation as Brock with the next retirement? People aren't going to really watch or show up because he's not retiring because he didn't last time. Are we going to head to a Terry Funk 7 to 9 retirement tours?
Hey, you know, some of them paid off, if nothing else. What happens with Brock and Obafemi now, then? Because the original idea that people were assuming was that Brock Lesnar was going to retire, because he said just before WrestleMania he had signed a short, or whatever, he was going to be in the company a short time longer. And I guess the news was that he was going to retire at SummerSlam, which is in Minnesota, which I guess is his own home city, or thereabouts. And then he randomly retires at WrestleMania 42, which was kind of baffling. But now he's lost to Obafemi, clean in 4 minutes. And now he's attacked Obafemi. How do you go about this where everybody comes out looking better?
Off the top of my head, this is what I'm thinking about as we go into this. That Brock didn't, I don't know the beginning of this. This has to be really hashed out because this is the confusing part. What brings Brock out of retirement to wrestle Obafemi? That question I don't have the answer to as far as a common sense reason. But moving past that, say he loses to Obafemi again. Brock doubts himself and says, I should have stayed retired. I should have stayed retired. I don't know if I have it anymore. There's only one way I can find out if I'm still up to the level to perform in this company as a main event talent or even somebody on the roster. I have to put the ultimate stakes up. The first time I made the decision, this time I need to have a retirement match at SummerSlam if I lose. So basically, if I lose, I'm forced to retire. My back is against the wall. There's only one person that I need to go up against to whether I can move on past SummerSlam or ultimately not retire, but be retired, forcibly be retired, and that person is Gunther. That's the only way to do damage control. Is he going to wrestle another 2 years and go on the Brock Lesnar streak again? I love it.
Well, he could be the leg end. He could actually be the leg, Hall of Famer leg end, Brock Lesnar.
Dude, I have no answers. I'm just trying that second part, you can kind of see, okay, we can recover it. And then we give Gunther, once again, the start on Gunther. My goodness, You're really doing him any favors at this point because he hasn't retired anybody since Royal Rumble. AJ, right?
Yeah. No. Wrestled? No, he was at WrestleMania.
No, but
Seth
he didn't
Rollins.
retire anybody since then.
Oh, no. Well, you think he's itching to retire? Well, okay, so he's retired in storyline AJ Styles, John Cena, and Goldberg within the last year. Why they don't all just come back with a contract in the pockets, I don't know. Because retirement means nothing.
Goldbergstein is returning to WWE.
Goldstein.
BK Styles.
That's a bad guy in 1984 as well.
BK Styles doing in the Impact Zone?
Okay. How about this for a layout? You can't make sense of not retiring. Obafemi loses, but with loads of shenanigans at Clash in Italy. Then the rubber match, right? In Saudi Arabia, which is in June, I think. And then Oba wins that, but then there are shenanigans for Oba to win that. But it's kind of dominating. Whatever it is that Oba would have won either way. But then Brock Lesnar then has a gripe, and let's say Gunther interferes with Brock. Yeah? Let's say Gunther... Okay. I'm doing this on the fly. Bear with me.
Dude, if you're confused, everybody else will be at this point.
I've got it. Brock beats Obafemi with shenanigans, right? Brock then demands a title match with Gunther. Gunther refuses, and then they've got their own little thing going on. Then Oba says, no, I want the rubber match at the Saudi Arabia show. Gunther costs Brock Lesnar that match, so therefore Oba's 2-1 up, but also make it somehow obvious that Oba was going to win either way. So therefore he looks like the dominant party there. So he whatever. And then at SummerSlam, Brock then puts up a no return, I must retire, I will never wrestle again, blah, 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 whatever it is, against Gunther. And then that's the retirement match at SummerSlam. But I think you have to have like 2 Obafemi matches, and Brock needs to win at least one of them before going to SummerSlam. Because if he just loses everything, then he gets a world title shot. He's no better than Goldberg.
Well, I was just thinking of a way. Here's the time. Then Gunther has a championship?
No. He's going against Cody Rhodes at Clash in Italy for the championship.
Understood.
So he would have to win there.
Okay. So what I'm looking at here, you're talking about there's factors that you're kind of keeping Brock a little bit heelish with Obafemi, and you're stretching that along 3 matches and kind of resetting this. If they had a best-of-5 series or a best-of-7, now we got something, but then you got to have TVs. You can't string it along 7 pay-per-views. What I'm looking at is Brock is going back to Minnesota, essentially, where he went to college, where he really is known very well for SummerSlam. He wants to go out a babyface, maybe. That's mostly the way it works. You go out as a babyface. Where has Gunther retired a lot of people? He's retired a lot of people in the most popular ways at the, not in their hometown, but this would be an extra wrinkle on that. And I just thought about Brock. You kind of have to forget about WrestleMania 42, by the way, and just a sudden retirement and then attacking Obafemi as a heel. It's very confusing. This is a very tough spot. Enjoy the show. Here's another. Yeah, you want to hear another thing? Fan. What's Brock? Brock is all business. So what would bring Brock back if he really meant to retire at WrestleMania 42 outside of a lawsuit? They back up the Brinks truck and they pay him. TKO, or even more important, you brought up something I didn't think about. What if the Saudis want Brock? And they were like, we'll give you this much more money. And they're like, screw creative. We're all getting money. Isn't that a TKO move?
Right then. We shall move on. And we have to talk about Marty Jannetty. His foot was reportedly finally amputated a short while ago after suffering from some of the most grim ankle issues anybody has ever seen. Normally we'd roll some B-roll up here. I don't think anybody needs to see it. It's really hard. You've seen Marty's ankle prior?
Well, I saw Marty's ankle. We wrestled about 10 years or more ago, and his ankle was in the same shape. Well, this is worse, carried it over that, but he could barely wrestle in the ring with the ankle back then and still worked great. It's amazing. I got to give him that compliment, but he took off his boot or his sneaker backstage before the match. And then he took the boot off after the match. And dude, it looked, you've seen pictures over the years. And there's a picture here from 2024. We're not going to show it, man. That's pain. If a picture could kind of show pain, that picture would show you can relate to that pain that this guy's been through for well over a decade.
I'm gonna okay. I want to get back to how the match was in a minute, so don't forget that. So there was an AI image. I don't know if it was just there to improve like the quality of the photo or something like that, but it kind of led to a couple of people saying, "Was it fake?" as well, which we don't believe it is anyway. But like they spelled Jannetty wrong. It was like prayers for Marty Jannetty, and they spelled the name wrong. But also, it gave him 6 fingers on one hand as well, and it started leading people to think that like this hadn't actually happened. But we think it has, so we're going to obviously proceed. Like, his doctor told him a couple of years ago it did. It basically needs to come off, and I can't imagine the how does one go about processing that information that we are going to have to saw a giant piece off of you, even if it's causing a huge amount of pain and discomfort? Like, the decision to say, cut half my leg off has got to be almost impossible to make unless, the decision is taken out of your hands.
Yeah, there's a lot of not only physical and medical things to overcome with therapy, even if it's down by his ankle, so it's not up to the underneath the knee like Bagwell or anything like that, or some people all the way up to your hip, but it's still an amputation. So I would say this, it's just mentally, emotionally, and physically, it's something at any age that's going to be tough to get over and tough to rehab and do everything like that. He has a really long road ahead of him. Like you said, we don't know if he had it done for real or not. We're just taking the assumption that it needs to happen. We're at that point. I know stories. And I will say this too. Marty needed probably multiple surgeries on that ankle and foot region when I wrestled him well over 10 years ago. He did not get it done for the reason we hear from all the workers and everybody who's an independent contractor, but especially pro wrestlers. No health insurance, no coverage. I have to keep wrestling because if I don't wrestle, I don't have an income. This is another example of somebody letting this go way too long without the proper medical attention. And here we are right now. It sucks.
Sean Waltman, in an interview quite a number of years ago, said that maybe one of the causes for why his ankles are so messed up is that he didn't lace up his boots properly and never had like proper ankle support. Do you think there's any credence to that theory?
Yeah, I could see that happening over years and years and years, because if you don't have, I have Atomics shoes that I wore with kick pads, and then before that I had boots. But everything I had, especially the Atomics ones, has 2 different places for ankle support, because the worst feeling in the world and one of the hardest injuries I ever had to recover over time, and it still bothers me a little bit, is when I rolled my ankle in the ring. And that's something I feel like what Sean Waltman's saying. He was constantly rolling his ankle night in and night out in the Hogan Andre ring, by the way, rolling it and rolling it and rolling it. And then maybe getting on a plane or being in, and of course, if you drive, what are you doing with that right foot? Constantly pressing on the gas, the brake, all that stuff. It definitely probably had a cumulative effect if that's the case. But it's also, guess what? You said he got injured. Survivor Series 1996 in the show notes.
Yeah, I don't know how. I don't remember that happening.
It doesn't matter.
He did wrestle for the WWF like a month late, like for another month doing tags. So,
but guess what he did
stay on the road.
Guess what he didn't do?
Take time off.
Didn't take time off and didn't get the proper medical attention. And you string from 96 up until now, never got it fixed. And if you don't, and it might have just been something of, hey, we just got to, you got an ankle sprain, we got to cast it up, put you on crutches for 6 weeks. That turns into, we might have to break your ankle to fix it, put pins and all that stuff. Now we're at amputation level.
Yeah, so this is what Marty wrote back in 2024. I can't hardly formulate a sentence right now. It's a tough time in life. Yesterday they told me they want to cut my leg off. Struggling with that. Brother called last night and my sister died in his arms, basically. I don't even know what I'm saying right now. I don't think I'm doing the podcast yet. Apparently I had a podcast. Please forgive me. I do love you. I just can't. I'm so lost. So he was having a hard time back in 2024. But aside from all the family issues as well, it's very easy from the outside in just saying, look, because apparently, he was dealing with infection, sepsis, MRSA, whatever it might have been, that was in the bone. And the doctors could not get the infection out, which is why he was constantly back in the hospital.
So it was like a necrosis, too, of the bone and everything. It was wasting away.
Now, this will probably sound ridiculous saying for me, but like if you're on a lot of pain medication to manage the pain that the ankle's causing you can barely walk on it. At some point, I guess it depends on the person and the mentality, that they would have taken the drastic surgery option a lot earlier than Marty. But I'm sure for other people, look, I know someone who had a rotten tooth and they didn't want to take the tooth out because they were like, it's my tooth though, I don't want to lose it, and they'll like exercise every option until there is no option.
Yeah, but like you're saying, it went from time off on crutches with an air cast. I'm just speculating. 96, kept working on it, kept rolling the ankle. Other injuries happened. And remember, Marty was doing like the fist drop off the top. Maybe he kind of caught his toe landing, different bumps. He really did a lot of impactful stuff as part of the Rockers, the Midnight Rockers, the Rockers, singles. And then he had to work a full schedule on the indies because you got to make a living. So we're talking about decades that this could have been recovery, rest and recovery, maybe minor surgery or just breaking it in a cast, then pins and bolts and whatever else to lock it in. Now this. And I do believe a lot of that has to do with the fact of the cost of medical care, the cost of surgery. If Marty lived in a country with universal health care, would he have gotten it fixed sooner? In America, it really is. Without insurance, self-pay is still expensive. He's working to survive on the indies, and you just kind of kick the can down the road. And here we are. Yeah, and there could be managing with painkillers and stuff and say, well, I can get through the match, I can do this, and not even realizing how, hey, if you don't get an x-ray and an MRI and a CT scan and an ultrasound or whatever it might be, guess what? I don't have the diagnosis, so it must not be that bad. Wrestlers do that, not just Marty. We compartmentalize common sense along with the pain.
Marty is somebody who I guess you see at conventions and stuff, and he's one, and it's because he's moving so badly. And it's one of those things that you don't want to see people suffering like that. And Marty was always one of those guys that I just feel bad for, in the sense that you see him like just moving from this, and everything seems like an arduous task, and it just seems like such a shame that he was suffering that much. I want to
say this
you,
too.
Stevie.
I feel for
Yes.
Marty. I've been around Marty. He's always been extremely cool to me and everything. But that extends to everybody at these conventions. Like the people who are taking video footage of Dean Malenko on the scooter who is suffering from Parkinson's and other people that have trouble getting around. These wrestlers and these people are still wanting to show up, give the fans autographs, a picture and everything. And I have to assume they don't feel comfortable with it. They feel insecure, all these different things. I feel for everybody, no matter how I feel about anybody personally, nobody deserves to be put in there and kind of looked at in that way. And when it happened to Dean, a lot of people lashed out like, what are you doing?
Yeah, but some people get like a weird perverse pleasure of it.
Lots of people do. Yeah,
well,
there's just this gotcha type of paparazzi thing to it,
With Marty, tell us about your match with him. So you said it was about 10 years ago. He would have been like in his mid-50s then as well.
We had a match for Bull Dempsey was promoting up in Queens, New York, I believe, or Brooklyn, one of those places. We were in the main event, and I have to say this, like the story was, I thought Marty had really lost his temper because Marty's a legit tough guy. He kind of like scrapper, he can fight. I am not. But we got out there, we had the match, everything was perfectly fine. Dude, I'm still marking out. I'm working Marty Jannetty. It's really a bucket list moment. Something happens in the match. We have the finish, everything works. And I have to tell you, I couldn't tell that his ankle was in bad shape like that. You know, like he was still running the ropes, doing things, maybe not as much as it's an indie show. So we're not trying to take a million bumps anyway. People are pretty happy. But during the finish, something happened. And after Marty put me over, that was our argument. No, hey, I'm putting you over. Hey, I'm putting you over. That was the only argument I ever got into Marty Jannetty. Because I wanted to put him over. I wanted him to win. With the super kick, whatever he wanted, whatever it might be. He puts me over. I leave the ring, and Marty starts throwing chairs into the ring, and Marty starts dropping elbows like Ric Flair onto the chairs, and he looks mad, like really mad. And I'm like, oh my God, I get back to the gorilla position. It's like a little bit like steps, and then you go a little stage through the curtain. Bull Dempsey's there, and like 4 or 5 other people are there. I think Danny Doring might have been there, a couple of people. They're like, what's going on, Marty? Why is he so mad? I go, I don't know. He was laughing throughout the entire match, having a good time, like pinching my butt, doing all these little ribs. And I go, and after the match, he just kind of just started doing that. And they're like, well, what if he comes back and he goes wild? We remember the Terry Funk thing from coming from the back after the fire incident, which, by the way, no footage exists. Never happened. But I get there and I make some kind of weird call. I'm like looking around and they're like, well, dude, he can come back and just start swinging on us. And I'm like, well, everybody get out of here. I'll stay here and see what's going on or whatever. And Bull's like, well, what if he starts throwing punches? And I go, I'll just start taking punches, I guess, because I'm not going to fight back. I don't know what to do. Maybe try to get a hold of him. But lest you know, I'm not a great amateur wrestler either. So here we go. So they all leave. And you hear Marty screaming as he's coming up the stairs, and he's like, comes through the curtain, smiles, hugs me, and he goes, oh, brother, thank you so much. That was so much fun. And I'm like, my arms are out like this, and I'm like, okay. Patting him, and I go, he goes, you okay? And I go, are you okay? And he goes, yeah, why? And I go, I peel the curtain, and there's a pile of chairs in the ring. I go, what was that all about? We thought you were all mad. He goes, oh no, I was just working the fans and just trying to leave the fans happy. And I was like, you left them terrified. Did I? I was like, yes. And he goes, where is everybody? I go, terrified. And he goes, why are you the only one up here? And I go, I don't know. I'm terrified. And he hugged me again. He goes, oh, that was good, man. That was good, brother. Then he got to the back. And he took the boot off, and I watched him. I think he had sneakers, which made it even worse. And dude, I go, is your ankle okay? And he goes, no. He goes, dude, well, he didn't say dude. He's like, brother, I don't know how much more I can do this or whatever. He was very, very self-aware of it. And I said, I have to say, Marty, even with your ankle looking like that, dude, you're amazing. That was awesome. And he goes, oh, dude, or brother, I keep saying dude. He goes, you carried me through that match. And I go, well, here's the secret. You carried me through the match because I forgot everything and I was so nervous. He was calling it to me. So just funny story at the time that I didn't know if it was going to turn out being funny.
That was back in 2012, Showcase Championship Wrestling, Middle Village, New York, USA, St. Margaret's School.
Did I go over? Did I get that right?
You did, yeah. You were the champion of that promotion at the time, and
boy, did they make a mistake.
Other people was Nunnio was there, Chris Harris was there, Doink the Clown, but I don't know which one, Perry Saturn wrestled Danny Doring on that show.
Oh, wow. Oh, man, that was quite the show.
There we go. Oh, Matt Bourne. It was the original Doink.
He did. It was because him and Bolt Dempsey were very tight at the time.
So, yeah, just to kind of wrap it up, I guess best wishes to Marty. But, hopefully it's an improvement, a great improvement overall.
I hope it's not true.
14 years ago.
Yeah, I hope it's not true. I hope they can do whatever they can to save his foot and his ankle region, or at the very worst, that his rehab, his recovery, and his pain levels are like in ranges where he can really have a fulfilling life. And, I just want to say thank you to Marty, because that was definitely a memory, with the chair thing and stuff. It was probably a good rib on everybody that scared everybody to death. But at the same time, being in the ring with Marty Jannetty, I was so self-aware, too self-aware. I was in the ring with a legend and enjoying every second of it, to the point where I forgot every spot in the match.
We shall move on. And we can't not mention this. The Royal Rumble t-shirt from 2001. Or it's a tribute, a pastiche. 25 years ago, Royal Rumble 2001 took place. It was one of the better, if not best, Royal Rumbles that ever occurred as an event from top to bottom as well. And my favourite at the time, Kane, nearly won it all as well. It could have been Kane versus The Rock. Anyway, at WrestleMania 17. Hot Topic have released an officially licensed WWE Rumble 2001 shirt featuring some of the major players with WWE at the time. First and foremost at the top, it's Steve Austin and Kane, the last two in the Rumble match. Other people on the t-shirt, Triple H, Undertaker, The Rock, Kurt Angle, and Titus O'Neil. Stevie? To make things worse, Titus's image was placed over the name Test. Never see the two in the same room. I'll grant you that. So it could have been the same person. But
is this like Big Show and myself being twins at 54?
There are different shades of skin color going on as well with this one. It's going to be even harder to say these guys are twins. But no one can fathom how this happened. And I wanted your perspective on this. How could they have made either such a giant blunder, or if you think it was somehow done on purpose, how do you think this one got through any kind of quality control whatsoever? Or two, do you think it got through quality control and somebody thought, put Titus O'Neil in there?
I'm saying it a lot in this episode. I don't know. I have no earthly idea, but knowing the company, at least the company that I know now they care more about money than quality of control. But at the same time, are we in the territory? My antennas go off when Hunter said, well, Chyna's not in the Hall of Fame at the time, because what if somebody Googles her name or searches for it? Is it because of the way Andrew passed away that they need to erase him, even though they forgot? The quality control, in other words, could be forgetting to change his name, not putting another wrestler over him. Now, stupid quality control, wouldn't you think if you're going to at least erase him from history, that you add somebody from that era in the Royal Rumble match that was actually in it, and you replace Test? But this here actually causes antennas to go up, because you could have just put somebody else in there and you'd be like, only the person that has the shirt or remembers it to a granular detail. Wait a minute, Test was on that t-shirt. Because I sure as heck wouldn't remember. If you had put anybody in there outside of a person that wasn't even in the business in 2001, that might not even have graduated school in 2001. I don't know. I tend to think that they tried to replace Test, and they put the wrong person in there from the wrong era, and they kept his name there. Really dumb.
It's funny you mentioned Chyna, because Chyna was on that t-shirt.
I saw it. Yeah. So now that leads to, like, it's more confusing, because now you have Chyna, but now she's back in. You can Google her name now, supposedly.
So there's a few issues. So quality control in WWE's merchandise department, or do you think that maybe Hot Topic was making their own stuff and just like submitting things for approval?
So you thought
How
it
would
was
that
a
even
bootleg
work?
T-shirt?
Well, it was definitely on the website that they have now since removed, by the way. But it kind of looks like a bootleg T-shirt, but it's got like a charm to it. I mean, it's by far nowhere near the worst T-shirt I've seen WWE produce
Yeah, but
or give
this year
official
had a
stamp
lot of
to.
black T-shirts, and this cream-colored T-shirt kind of raises my antennas once again. Now that you mentioned that, this is not a color scheme that WWE usually goes with. Do you agree with that?
Yeah, I guess so. So you're saying it's more like a Hot Topic thing that they've just like submitted and say, there you go, and then
Yeah,
someone
because
not paying
somebody had been
attention is
like,
ticked.
well, name a wrestler you like. Oh, Titus O'Neil's a good guy. There you go. Is Hot Topic based in Tampa? Because they were like, he's like a staple of the community, but they forgot to change a little detail like the name or realize, well, how old is Titus O'Neil? When did he start wrestling?
Yeah, luckily, Wikipedia exists, and you could have just picked any number of like 40 other names, I guess. You could like Steve Blackman. You could have given him some merchandise royalties for why not? Like, he's not been featured in 20 years. He might
That's a
have had a
good
go
point.
after him, but that's fine.
Also, with this too, wasn't Test not at this particular time, but Albert, they were a tag team before that, and they have Trish, Test, or Titus, and then they could have, or they had, look at the shirt again, because they could put him in kind of like an act.
He was TNA. Yeah.
Yeah. So they could have put Albert in there instead of Test, or they could have put another female in there. It always blows my mind is this is during the time of like Taboo Tuesday and everything, wasn't it? Because Honky Tonk Man is in the Royal Rumble.
He was in that Royal Rumble, and that was several years after was Taboo Tuesday.
Oh, but
he was just in.
But
they could have put Drew Carey in. He was there.
He was there with Kane. They had that celebrity interaction. I'm just saying this was like around the time where Honky Tonk Man, up until Taboo Tuesday, was making these cameo appearances.
I mean, if you look at the other pictures as well, if you really study it, Kane is the wrong era Kane, because that's late 99 Kane, early 2000s. That's a year out. The Undertaker's picture, that is,
That's
I believe, his
biker.
current... Yeah, no, it's not even biker. That's retired Undertaker. That's like current Undertaker that he's got like as official social media photos.
Well, at least they have
That
Triple
photo's
H.
taken like 2023.
Well, at least Triple H's traps and chest are big, and that's all that counts.
I think The Rock might be 99 Rock. China wasn't there that long. That's about right. Trish Stratus, I can't tell, but that probably looks like something from the early 2020s. They've used photo
And
Trish,
Titus O'Neil,
which is
Titus O'Neil, they just pulled off the website with the profile picture.
Yeah. That was off corporate.wwe.com.
That was like Titus in the community page, or well, the community. Did they have a community page too? We just discovered it ourselves. Community board.
Have we checked that Royal Rumble was in New Orleans, Louisiana?
I believe it was. That would be amazing if it wasn't.
I'm even gonna check now. Okay, right. I did have another theory here. Do you think that Okay, actually, there's two things. One, TKO just put out a video, right, where they were introducing talent relations, people who worked in talent relations, and I think it's one of the guys actually has in his job description quality assurance. It is his job, like over quality assurance. He's like somebody who like has to protect like WWE IPs from stuff like this. And I think it's funny that they introduced him 2 weeks ago on TKO's official website, and then this clanger drops, and it's one of the most ridiculous T-shirts with official insignia from, you know, with an approved vendor. It's insane.
It's almost like serendipity. You think it's like perfect timing. Here's the guy that does this. 2 weeks later, how can we rip Johnny over here? Let's put out one of these T-shirts. See if we can get. There could be somebody else trying to have old Johnny in quality control lose his job. No one it was. I was Titus O'Neil Test. Imagine if that Johnny was in charge of that. There'd be all Victoria's Secrets models on the T-shirt.
It would have just been Kelly and
who was Alicia Fox?
It'd be the Diva Search, like 2004 cast, wouldn't it? Amy Weber.
Let's just have fun out there with the Rumble girls.
Another one. This is getting more speculative here, but do you think WWE are just doing their absolute best to ignore Test, like how they ignored him when Test died and they didn't even do a graphic, or they fired him while he had neck surgery?
They sure are kind of like, it's not ending, at least are what we're looking at. I have to just think that this is a hot topic thing. They're not connected to the business. Someone remembers Titus O'Neil and they forgot to fill in Titus O'Neil over Test. Maybe they couldn't find the right font. They said nobody will notice except for a British guy and some 54-year-old nerd. Not Big Show, me. Twins.
Dude, they could have had Tiger Ali Singh. He was on the card.
He was there in 2001?
He was managing Lowdown, but he was on the Heat match.
You know what they should have done? It's urban legend. You should have replaced Test with me. I replaced Big Show. I replaced Benoit. I was with the company. Wish the meme was strong.
I was going to say you weren't in the Rumble match, but you were at the show. You were with Ivory, of course, as Right to Censor.
I was still in the opening of the Royal Rumble promo, and they had me going through the middle rope in the opening.
Excellent.
Excellent.
Were you being guttural like a backlash, but Royal Rumble?
Royal Rumble. Did I do it? I was close. But no, I was never in a Royal Rumble, by the way.
You were never in a Royal Rumble. They could have had Stephanie. I mean, she's everywhere else. Why not?
She had Stephanie, all her belts on top, then her podcast promo images, and then the VPN logo on the end.
The amount of people they could have had on here, and
it almost feels like it's on purpose now that you're mentioning all this.
I know. Well, that's what I'm getting at. I mean, there must have been someone who made this who was completely not a wrestling fan and just put Test in, or maybe they meant like Test image.
I think we're reaching on that one. I think there's something more to this than I think our suspicions about this company sometimes might be well founded.
Let's end with this then. Let's move off from the T-shirt. TKO, they've conceded, Mark Shapiro's conceded that going to Las Vegas for 2 years in a row was a mistake. But there's more to add for this. This writes from F4W Online. Shapiro sat down with Brian Sotzi of Yahoo Finance for an interview that was recorded before WrestleMania. They recorded this, by the way, but was released this past Monday. At the time, he took responsibility, he being Mark Shapiro, for moving WrestleMania 42 from its originally scheduled site in New Orleans to Vegas. Quote, "Maybe it's a mistake I made," Shapiro said, "because Vegas was so huge last year and such a winner for our fans and the product that I said to Nick Khan, we've got to go back to Vegas next year. We have to move New Orleans down the road and we got to come back to Vegas." Still, Shapiro has not apologized for the move. Quote, again, "Absolutely no regrets on going back to Vegas." He said, "But the only reason you're hearing some of the, hey, it's not what it was last year, is because we're not benefiting from the first mover experience." What do you think of Mark Shapiro's words there?
Why does Mark Shapiro keep sitting down doing these interviews, even if this is before WrestleMania? Why do this?
And then releasing them so much later.
So you basically, what you said, Mark Shapiro, the people of New Orleans, they're very passionate people. I would think that some of them, or more than some of them, are having the idea, and the prices make it easy to do. Boycott WWE when they do come for their Money in the Bank consolation PLE. Like, what do you mean? Like, there's such a thing of fans saying, been there, done that. You just wanted to be like, this is Vegas. This is pretty much our headquarter home, right? Let's just do it here. We get a site fee. We get all this stuff. We can lock down the entire city and do a blackout. We can do, these are all the ideas to make that, to make it easier to control in Vegas for them. And quite frankly, like when you said it was so big the first year, so why not do it again? That's not what you make people want it even more. So you go, the Super Bowl doesn't go back to back in the same city. Matter of fact, they announced 2 to 3 years out where they're going to be. The World Cup, you already know what the next World Cup's going to be. Have they ever taken the World Cup back to the same exact city the next time?
Best I know, no. I don't think so, no. But they announced stuff like 6 to 8 years in advance,
but isn't it,
as well.
Yeah, but isn't it a better business practice to give it to somebody new and take it on tour to where Vegas can say, we're going to up our site fee so you can come back in 2 years.
There's a lot of... right. Well, the site fee is actually interesting as well. I'll get to the tickets in a second, but the site fee is one of the main reasons they went back. New Orleans, we don't know how much they offered, but it was nowhere near as much as Vegas. I'm sure WWE had to pay like a big penalty to get out of their contract.
But if I can interject real quick, they literally reminded the people of New Orleans that we slighted you and took WrestleMania away from you. We'll give it back to you soon, but we just had to go back to Vegas.
Well, Vegas offered them like, what, $7-8 million in site fees alone, which seems enormous. And then you realize that Saudi Arabia is paying them like $300 million for 2 shows. So I don't know. What do you want? It's one, all about the money, and two, it's all about, as you said, half of them live in Vegas anyway. They just want to just invite all the rich friends out and party for a weekend and say, look how great we are. We've brought this entire show and, injected some money into the economy. And it still made a huge amount of money, no doubt. But I think it's disingenuous to say for any other reason that this was to do with money and a few people at the top of the company who wanted it to be there again.
What was that quote again that he had said, well, it didn't do as good as the year before? Did he give a reason for that? Because I know creatively you're bankrupt. That's why, you're not going to get.
We're not benefiting from the first mover experience. That's a weird way of saying,
especially for Vegas,
driving this place into the ground.
Yeah, but everybody's traveling to Vegas, so you're saying, okay, you're basically admitting in a way, more than a way, that now the bloom is off the rose. We did that first year in Vegas. They didn't come back for the second year, which I still contend is because you're creatively bankrupt and you don't have that. At least there was a little bit of leftover creativity or whatever from the WrestleMania 40. Now you're 2 years removed from it and you haven't done anything to put anything in the pipeline creatively. As a matter of fact, like you said in your solo video, dude, you guys promoted this thing basically 6 weeks out at the most. What do you expect? And the prices, the economy.
And the prices. Yeah. Well, it's kind of happening all across wrestling as well, as dare I say, I predicted, but I think it was kind of obvious that 2026 would be the year that wrestling would enter a bit of a depression. But it's happening with AEW as well. You can't rely on the ratings, because since September, October, Nielsen has changed up how they work out how many people watched a show, like 4 times. And, one day it's great for wrestling, the next day it's terrible for wrestling. So you can't compare. What you can compare are the ticket sales. And the ticket sales for WWE and AEW are lower. Wembley specifically, for All In, it's going to be the 3rd time in 4 years they're going to Wembley again. And it's August, I think the show is. And the ticket sales are tracking way lower this year. And it's for a number of different reasons. 22,000 or so they've sold. And the first time they went there was like 70,000. The second time they went there, 55,000 or so. This time they're tracking to be lucky to shift 35,000 tickets at this point.
Yeah.
And it's, at what point is it just the business in a depression? What point is it just going back to the same market over and over again in the same building? It just becomes less special every year.
Exactly. That was the point I was just about to make, is how can we miss you when you never go away? Isn't that what it is? That I think TKO is thinking somebody must have said it, because there was a time during WrestleMania 4 and 5 when they were at Trump Plaza in Jersey. I think there might have been Sean Mooney or somebody, I don't want to get the name wrong, that it said they were heavily considering just making that where WrestleMania would be. I got that impression that they were like, if year 2 does great or as good as year 1, let's do year 3 in Vegas and make Vegas where WrestleMania takes place every year. Could you see that happening?
They wanted that.
That's what
they
I mean.
Actually said it.
Yeah,
they actually said that Vegas was going to be like an unofficial home base for WrestleMania, and they just like go back every 2 years. And that still would have been a better idea than just doing it one year after the other, because as saying, like, same with Wembley and All In, people travel to these shows for the main show every year, more than any other show. They will, but they don't want to go to the same place every year. They want to see somewhere new, especially all the international fans from the UK, Europe, Australia, wherever it is. You don't want to just visit Vegas 10 times in a row. You want to see New Orleans. You want to go see New York City, LA, Florida, wherever it might be. You want to have the full experience. And if you're just it's just the same treadmill experience every year, it just becomes more missable.
Yeah, I hate to use the term lazy because there's so much effort put in the product, promotion, sets, everything. But it is lazy to go back to Vegas. I just want to put it that way. The other thing is, this is where TKO is just trying to erase every bit of legacy. That's what we talked about with the belts earlier. They're trying to erase every bit of legacy and make it the corporate WWE. Wouldn't you think? WrestleMania 40 was great in Philadelphia, but I thought there was going to be a tradition up until 30 they didn't do it. But for 10 and 20, why not go back to the Garden every 10 years for the 10-year anniversary of WrestleMania, where it started, the mecca of professional wrestling?
But you know why?
Because there's more tickets, stadiums, all that stuff. Yeah.
There was something else that Mark Shapiro mentioned. This was about, this is in a different interview, and this was JP Morgan's Global Tech Media and Communications Conference. TKO's Mark Shapiro said that the reason UFC passed on Ronda Rousey versus Gina Carano was it was, quote, more of a stunt than a meaningful MMA event. So apparently, I guess he never saw
any Logan Paul or Jake Paul fight, right?
Or James Toney in the UFC, or CM Punk. That was a stunt. Anyway, the point is that that's what he said. He thought it wasn't good for the sport after how it played out. Quote, Netflix wants big spectacle events, and they saw this as a big spectacle event. We're in the true MMA business on a meaningful, consistent basis. By the way, they've just announced on the same day that Conor McGregor's returning. When he looked at this potential matchup, keep in mind that there's a real art and skill to matchmaking. The answers, Dana White and Mark Shapiro and Ari Emanuel got back from Dana White and Hunter Campbell were that the fight will be over in 20 seconds, which it was. Quote again, I don't believe a fight like that, just the way it played out, is really good for MMA, especially because it's Netflix and such an incredible global audience that is going to sample, depending on what comes up on the front page, to go to that fight and think that's what MMA is. I don't believe is good for the sport long term. We saw it that way and decided to pass on it, taking nothing away from Rousey or her win or the viewers or the broadcast. It very much sounds like he is. And I was thinking, man, that's so reductionary and almost revisionist in the sense that, well, one, it was a huge event. Yeah, the fight sucked. But the fact is that these are the two biggest MMA women legends in history. And you can almost promote you can promote it as the seniors tour, a legends match, because they are two women's legends.
Like a Slamboree when Funk and Tully had their match and stuff like that.
Yeah. Here's what it was, right? Was that UFC and Hunter Campbell specifically turned down that fight because pay-per-view no longer existed by the time it happened for UFC. It's now all on Paramount Plus. And therefore, Ronda and Gina wanted guarantees. And if they got the guarantees they wanted, guess what would have happened? It would have upset the apple cart as far as the expectations of everybody else on the UFC roster. So, therefore, they didn't want to pay him $2 million or whatever it was each, plus all the under-the-counter payments that happen in MMA and UFC especially, which happen constantly. Everyone gets paid way more.
I got to hear more about that. They got a little convention money, stuff like that?
No. Well, it's the kind of thing where it's like they get an announced pay, but then there's also tons of benefits and whatnot that they also get paid that don't get disclosed as well, on the top end, I should say. So that's what it is. It all comes down to money. They didn't want to have to disclose how much they were going to pay these two, and they'd have to pay them way more than any other women in the history of UFC, and they didn't think it was worth it.
Who ended up promoting the fight and paying them?
Jake Paul and Netflix.
Oh, yeah, Jake Paul and Logan Paul. What is up with boxing? This is MMA, but boxing and MMA in some ways. The Conor McGregor Floyd Mayweather thing was interesting, and I watched it, but obviously you could see that, especially with the Logan Paul fight, that he Mayweather knocked him out during that fight and then held him up. Did you notice that to keep going?
Mm.
And I'm not saying Logan Paul is not brave for getting in the ring. Even in the work sense, you're still taking punches. Jake Paul and talking about Gina Carano and Ronda Rousey doing this. It's always dangerous. But why are we in this sideshow type of thing? Aren't there boxers out there and MMA fighters that can capture the, the interest just based off that? I know there's characters. You got your Conor McGregor, Colby Covington, all these people throughout the past few years. But can't we still have the sport, make it entertaining, but have legitimate fights that can happen?
No, because here's what happens with UFC even more than WWE these days, and these were problems before TKO got involved, is that you are producing content to fulfill your contracts to the television companies. And now there are so many fights with so many no-names. And because the sport of MMA has developed so much since the early 90s, and you kind of like fine-tuned what works generally and what doesn't work generally, that the fighters themselves are more homogenized. At least back in the day, before Reebok got involved, everyone had their own trunks.
Nate Diaz loves Reebok. Remember that?
Yeah, exactly. But you know what I mean? But like everyone started looking more the same with the same crap, and only a couple of different colors.
It's NASCAR now. It's NASCAR, just like TKO and WWE, right?
Yeah, but at least the cars look more interesting.
Well, I'm just saying,
more colorful,
they have
sponsors.
to watch what they wear and what they don't, all these different things.
Yeah.
Yeah,
it's NASCAR, it's Formula One. But the thing is like, there are so many fighters, so many nameless, faceless people that now people are more just hungry for the personalities, and they're having to hunt harder and further away for just interesting people, and who will sell tickets, even if it's just once, even if it's Jake Paul or whoever. Because even in UFC, there are so few, like Chimaev or whoever it might be. It's like there's just so few. Alex, I can't remember his name, the kickboxer champion, Patora. I can't remember. I nearly said Pattaya. That's in Thailand. There's so few people who are interesting now. It's just how it is. They're beating the personality out of these fighters, and there are so many of them that you can't focus on any of them and like develop their characters and their backstories.
You want to hear this? This just popped up because this was told to me in WWE quite a few times in talent relations and from creative. And this makes me think about the UFC stuff and where they're stuck, and even WWE and wrestling in general. This was told to me, and I never cease to laugh when I think about it. Make sure you stand out, be different, but also fall in line. Enjoy the show. That's literally like you've just described the ultimate trap for anybody, that no matter what I do, it's wrong.
It was Alex Pereira. I totally forgot his name. Just it goes to show you.
Well, they're really making memories over there in UFC, aren't they? They're really making memories.
Well, the thing is with UFC as well, they've fallen into the trap of trying to make the biggest fights as far as, but like not on merit, not on like rankings, but like who they think in the short term will spike what was a pay-per-view buy.
I'm surprised has not been, like, even in a special attraction fight, who has not gone back to UFC even just for one fight, and maybe he will. Brock Lesnar or Brock Lesnar.
Too old. He's way too old now.
Dude, TKO owns UFC and WWE.
Yeah, that's true.
There's
but like
$10-20 million to fight. And it's going to be basically Gina Carano hadn't been in the ring or trained, and you said she lost 100 pounds to get ready for this fight, and they knew what was going to happen. But Ronda Rousey wanted to give her the fight to, I guess, motivate her or inspire her, like you said in your solo video. You pay Brock $10-20 million, even being as old as he is, probably could still win a fight with half the roster or more. He's a tough dude.
Yeah, but you know what's funny is that they probably would do that for Brock, even though that would be a Legends fight. But they wouldn't do that for Ronda because she hates TKO and TKO hate her. I mean, Dana loves her, but a load of people don't like her in TKO in the UFC and WWE side. So they wouldn't do it for her, but I bet they would for Brock.
So I think it's a possibility. And like you talk about a huge moneymaker for both companies, to have a UFC fight featuring Brock Lesnar, whichever one returns out of retirement and goes and fights there. That's a draw. Would you want to see Brock versus Punk?
Yeah, sure. Why not? I'd want to see Brock versus Cain Velasquez again. Just one more time, just to roll it back, see what happens.
From Saudi?
No, not from the wrestling, from the UFC, because like Cain absolutely massacred Brock the first time. But then Brock, look, Cain was an absolute murderer back in that day. Well, he nearly was a murderer in real life as well. But hey, that prison food might have fed him up and given him some.
Yeah, we need some context to the situation of like how would we all react to that.
Oh, you want me to tell the story? Oh, okay. Was it his niece? I think it was a young family member. Anyway, I don't know if it was his daughter or his niece. Found out that someone at I guess was it like a childminder or something like that, or a nursery that they were
something like in a position with young children. Yeah.
Yeah. Anyway, the point is that he went off to shoot him, and he ended up shooting the wrong guy in the car. That he was actually chasing him down the road, and you know what? There was even talk that there was going to be leniency and just give him a suspended sentence, but he ended up doing some time over it. But he's out. He's at large again. Is Cain Velasquez? So why not?
Well, I'm sure there's a lot of people that would never want him to do 1 second of jail or prison time.
Yeah, definitely. But he's not back in AAA, and they were booking him before WWE bought the controlling stock in AAA, which would be interesting to see Cain Velasquez back.
How old is he? Do you think he could, if they did do the fight with Brock, that they would do? There's another name, and he still looks in incredible shape. I don't know what his age is, but you want to talk about an interesting match would be if you bring Ken Shamrock back to the UFC.
Dude, he's 60.
But dude, I'm just saying, do they care at this point? Saudi Arabia wanted Yokozuna and Andre the Giant.
Cain is 43.
And where's Brock? Closer to 50?
Yeah, 49, 50, 49.
It's still an interesting fight if you do it and you pay these guys enough money, they'll do it. I mean, we got Tito and Chael Sonnen. Chael Sonnen's still out there somewhere as well. Our good friend of the show.
Is he?
No, he hasn't said anything. He's not as much of a friend as Flair.
I guess so. Chael Sonnen used to comment on Shane Douglas's channel all the time.
He's a wrestling fan, and he should comment on Shane's channel.
Right. Well, we await Chael Sonnen commenting on our channel, but until then, we're going to say thank you very much for watching. We'll be back out every Thursday, including next Thursday. 2 weeks away from the 100th episode spectacular. We do not know what we're going to do for that, and actually, we've not really talked about it. So if you've got any suggestions, let us know in the comments. But until then, I will say thank you once again. New clips out every single day on the YouTube channel as well. Subscribe if you have not. And over to Stevie to thank everybody as well, including the Patreon supporters.
Well, thank you very much. Thank you for being here. 98 episodes and counting, James. Thanks to Chris and Chris. I call it long-form Chris, short-form Chris because of our editors, long-form content and the shorts and stuff. That everybody's doing great work here at the Stevie Richards Show. Really appreciate it and appreciate everybody here on YouTube as well. As we approach episode 100, by the way, big shock to everybody, including James. I already, for the past week or two, have been scouting locations to film the cold open for episode 100. James is smirking, even trying to employ a little bit of AI to recreate certain Raw's War openings and stuff featuring all three of us and even my cats. Been experimenting a lot with that.
Is that what you sent me?
I sent you the person of interest opening, which I'm also experimenting with as a cold open in the future. About WWE is watching you. So yeah. One of my favorite shows, Person of Interest. Amazing.
Yeah, but I was looking at that and I was like, is that meant to be me?
Yeah, it was. I didn't do a great job. I took your spot.
Oh, dude, I've got one of those faces AI hates.
Yeah, I took your spa day picture. It didn't really.
Oh, did you?
It didn't really translate into that. But thank you, everybody, here as we approach episode 100. Also, patreon.com/Stevie Richards. James already said in the beginning, watch-alongs every Monday morning, show notes every Tuesday morning, and also the show before the show every Thursday morning. By the way, I say this every so often, please give your feedback. If you want to see that brand new tier that I've been considering for a virtual pro wrestling school, heavy on the smartboard, Let me know what you think in the comments or on Patreon as well. For now, thank you so much once again, can't say it enough, for watching episode 98 of the Stevie Richards Show. See you next week, 99 Left Balloons episode of the Stevie Richards Show. I'm not doing it 98 times.